Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Calling All Heroes Minor 2 Unite, brought to you by the Washington Justice. I am Tiny Shiny with Sneaky on the mic for day number 2. We're getting our Swiss rounds about to wrap up. We're keeping things moving along within our second minor event, and we got to see some great matches yesterday to continue this lovely event that we have going on.
Yeah, we had really good rounds yesterday. 3 of them yesterday, and we're going to get 2 today. I mean, we got so many good matches yesterday. We got to see a lot of different compositions as well. Got to see some Orisa, some JQ, some Winston, some Wrecking Ball. I mean, you know, let's just go see some Doomfist and Zarya, and we'll basically hit the full round.
We'll get the whole Bingo card on there.
Exactly.
Why don't we? Exactly.
Yeah.
Get your take Bingo cards out, everybody, because I have a feeling we might be seeing a lot of that variety today. But before we get there to our actual matches, let's go ahead and review what this tournament is all about, that tournament structure, and what we're looking at. We are currently here on day number 2, which is the second day of our Switch stage. 3 of those rounds were played yesterday. Rounds 4 and 5 will be concluded by the end of today, and we'll have those top 8 teams to advance to playoffs.
Yeah, those top 8 teams, these teams are really going to be competing hard for that today. They only got 2 rounds left. Some of these teams looking very, very strong, obviously, after going 3-0 yesterday. Some of those teams being Valiant Guardians, L9 Swag Money, and Azathoth being those teams that had a perfect record yesterday. But doesn't mean they're going to be hard secured yet.
No, not at all. And I mean, there's still so many matches to be played today and, of course, over the next weekend of the playoffs. But I mean, we get to look at all that everyone is playing for as well. There are 2 different prizes to look at here. It has to do with our placements. So number 1, you, of course, got your traditional prize pool. $2,000 for first place will be going out, $4,000 in total across the board. But the big thing, you look over on the right side under points, those are the circuit points, which will be leading towards our end of the year event set for February of 2024 right now. So teams are looking to build up these points to qualify for that huge tournament, that large cash prize in the coming year. But for right now, this is what these teams are fighting for in the minor event. And, you know, it's quite a lot to still be disposed of. I mean, we have had so many of these events come through, and a lot of these teams have been very consistent across the board who's been getting that first place, and have had some back and forth between a lot of the rankings.
Yeah, and you know, kind of like how Fish and Nerdy mentioned yesterday, those points may honestly matter a little bit more than that cash prize. So those teams not just fighting for that first place $2,000, but also just a little pocket money, but also getting those circuit points to go for that big one in February, like you mentioned. And then obviously we get to see the map pool that we saw. Some of the maps of yesterday, we saw most of those yesterday. We saw Ilios, Oasis, Busan. I think every one of those maps were played yesterday. Saw a lot of Circuit Royale, not Circuit Royale, Numbani yesterday.
Yes.
We did see the Escort yesterday. We did not see any Escort, but Escort is Circuit Royale, Dorado, and Gibraltar. Push, Coliseo, Esperanza, and then the Flashpoint games where we saw a lot of new Junk City. Wouldn't mind seeing a Survasa today, but really up to the players, isn't it?
It honestly really is, and I think that that's what we kind of saw yesterday. A lot of our matches were 2-0s. They were pretty quick and done for the most part. We had a couple that ended up going to 3, but very few along the way. But nice thing about the Swiss format, though, of course, is that as we get further into this, especially rounds 4 and 5, like today, look at us, woohoo! Rounds 4 and 5, these teams are going to be better settled into a place. So those undefeated teams will be playing against other undefeated teams. Those who might not have many wins will be going against those lower-seeded spots. So that level of competition is expected to be evened out as we go through. Still in that first to 2 format, or best of 3, however you would like to word that one out, beginning on Control. So we got to see all of our map pool. We got to talk about all of the lovely things that you earn from this tournament. How about we talk about our first 2 teams that are going to be kicking it off today?
Yeah, first 2 teams being Vancouver Titans Blue and Fable. Both these teams currently have a record of 2-1. So like you mentioned earlier on with that seeding, these teams have that same record. And both of them, their losses yesterday were very, very tough teams. One of them losing to Valiant Guardians, the other one losing to Washington Timeless. So you can't really judge too much on those losses. So we are going to take a look at the Vancouver Titans Blue roster here. What, Phone, Spinor, Claire, and Safarona.
I think one of the big things to highlight about this team is they specifically have been playing together through every single Calling All Heroes tournament. A lot of the players that we'll see have jumped around from a few teams or another, but Vancouver Titans Blue have stayed strong as this core roster here, and that's really a huge advantage that when you start to play these games together, you get that level of synergy down, and that's something that can help. They see themselves as a dark horse coming into this event where everybody is kind of underplaying them, and I think them going against Fable for sure here is going to be an interesting matchup to see how they perform.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to mention is Vancouver Titans, Blue, just have those 5 players.
Yes.
Right? Fable, on the other hand, as we're getting ready to take a look at their roster, is going to be fully set out. I think it's 8 player slots or 7 player slots. I don't quite remember the exact number, but they have a lot of flexibility. So it really is that this matchup that we're going to see is going to be, can VTB, is that 5-person roster with the with no flexibility but the synergy, going to take over Fable's roster, which has that major flexibility.
And, I was mentioning earlier, too, is that you have, of course, the teams. You have the one Vancouver Titans Blue. They've been together this whole time. Fable is the complete opposite. These players, I know all of them. I've seen all of them in Calling All Heroes before, and I'm sure you guys have as well. But the biggest thing to note here is that they come from some of the top finishing teams before. You have players from the former Rift Guardians as well as Whiplash, and seeing a lot of these teams start to come together. They're finding these best squads to work with, and I think this puts Fable pretty high in my own personal rankings. When you look along these teams, you're taking all these star players, putting them together. But that test does become, when they're actually in the battlefield, that is Overwatch, how well can they actually work together to accomplish that goal? And that's really what I'm going to be looking out for them specifically today.
Yeah, and that really is the question, right? When you get into this sort of section of the tournament, especially that round 4, round 5, 2-1, you're basically middle ground right now.
Yes.
Right? It could truly go either way. You're not in a good spot, but you're also not in a bad spot. You're quite literally sitting in the middle, getting prepared to see where you want to go. So this match is going to be very, very tough for both these teams. And kind of like how Fish mentioned yesterday, I kind of want to say it today. I think this could be one of those games we see a map 4. This could be
a map 4. You're going as far as a map 4.
Yes. I'm rooting for it. I'm thinking a draw is possible, especially if one of these teams pick a Paradiso.
Okay, if they pick Paradiso, maybe. If they pick Paradiso, fine. We will discuss that when we get there. But for now, we'll be starting on Control, which you cannot draw on, so we won't be seeing a map 4 just yet. But Busan is the selection of choice to open it up. And out of the 3 pools, I feel like this is one of the more balanced ones that teams can kind of adapt as they go throughout the mini-map specifically, and just with the compositions that have been viable as of late with the recent patches coming in, with the change of season that Orisa likes to take control a lot here. That's just one of the picks that we've seen.
Yeah, and we didn't really ever see Vancouver Titans Blue yesterday, so we don't know what we're going to see from them, right? We could see Ramatra, Junker Queen, Zarya, Wrecking Ball, Doomfist, Tracer, I don't know. We could see a lot of different compositions coming out from VTB, but on the side of Fable, we did get to see some switch-ups. We saw a lot of that Orisa, which is tended to be where they stuck with.
Yeah.
But we also saw some Sigma, and we also saw some Wrecking Ball. So Avery being able to play those different characters does give even more flexibility and potentially more of that surprise factor against Vancouver Titans Blue here.
And I think you mentioned a very strong point, is Avery. Avery is one of those players that has been so consistent across the board between playing in Open Division, Path to Pro, Collegiate, and of course here in Calling All Heroes. I mean, they've been everywhere in terms of the tank. They're an incredibly strong shot caller and have such a wide range of tanks under their belt that they can play at a high level, which is huge, especially when you're playing with obviously only one tank, but when you need to vary between off and main tanks alike. So there's a lot more flexibility in Fable as well with their in-depth roster, and it really makes me question is, with Vancouver Titans Blue being as that core 5 roster, do they have that level of adaptation here to be able to make these changes in-game if they are needed?
Yeah, and that's another thing, right? Like yesterday, I remember I was talking to you as we were watching the games.
Yep.
I was a little worried when I saw teams not running this Orisa meta. When we saw, including watching Timeless bring out the Junker Queen, and they still won with it. So clearly, it is very possible for these teams to say, we don't care for the meta, we're going to play what we're good at and take this victory. And so I actually am very curious to see, one, since we haven't seen VTB play much at all, and also with Fable, with players like Avery who can just flex, I'm curious to see what we may see from both of these teams on Busan. I mean, obviously you get the options of that 5-man type of brawl. You get the Winston, you get Wrecking Ball. There's also the Orisa map, obviously, on the indoor map. So you can basically see any type of composition that you would like to see. I think this may play really well to Fable's favor.
I think so as well, because one of those strong point has been Avery on that Orisa. But as soon as I say that, Ryan, I think I see a certain space ramp on my screen.
Yeah, and we are going to see that Sigma come out from Avery and Vancouver Titans Blue on that Orisa comp. We didn't see much of them yet. Actually, I don't think we saw any of them yesterday. So seeing them on the Orisa comp, a pretty good betting. If you're a betting person, you could probably bet that that was going to go that way, running that Orisa, running that composition, as Fable going to be on a little bit of a different one, running this Soldier, this Sojourn, Sigma, Alari, and Baptiste.
A wide variety coming out here, but you mentioned that Alori specifically is a main damage dealer. Panther managed to get that first final blow, but the capture going over to Vancouver Titans Blue. Still down a player, Phone not present at the point, and Avery isn't going to do well faring face-to-face with Ariska. I need to see them take this distance, that distance battle away, and then once you do that, Spino is going to have a very hard time maintaining themselves on the objective and allow Fable to stabilize.
Yeah, and just like that, Fable able to take out some of these eliminations, including one with that outburst from Panther. You don't see that very often. Able to find that elimination, and now Fable going to start off strong with this point. We do see that Vancouver Titans was able to secure a little bit of percentage there, but now Fable going to get to about that 30% mark, where most of these teams tend to be before that next fight in cores, as we are going to see what I thought I saw a turret for a second there. I don't know what that was about. I thought I saw a turret for a second.
Yeah, I don't think there's any turrets. Maybe a pylon is what you saw. And I wouldn't be surprised because look at Panther already is up to that Sunstruck. So having that on board here, Fable, if they initiate with this, it's going to be huge coming in. Look at that, flying through the sky. Managed to grab one. Panther being so aggressive on this Alori is working out in dividends for Fable right now.
Yeah, I mean, there it is. You see it once more, you know, this game. You don't see very many POTGs of DBS anymore nowadays. Now that Ayari's back in this game, you're going to see a lot of support play of the games, and as a support player, I'm perfectly fine with that. But, I mean, just like that, Panther able to find 2-3 people and then go forward and, playing around the corner a little bit, try to maybe find a little sneaky elimination early on in the fight. Ultimates in the favor of Fable as we see 4 of them for their team already.
Yeah, this is Fable right now. They're starting to gain that ultimate advantage. Vancouver Titans, they haven't been able to get close enough to really have anything decisive to say. And that's where you want Phone to come in, but Big Man ends up getting the better of them. Comes around from the back, snags 2 off the board. Wow. Fable wanted to be ahead of the game, and there you go. They are up in a 4v3 fight right now, and what won't be standing around for much longer, needs to fall back, get healed up just a little bit more, but this is Fable in final fight territory. Vancouver Titans need to make something happen. Terror Surge was an attempt to pull players in, but didn't get that full grasp we really wanted to see for Spino, so all they're trying to do is stay on the objective as an Orisa, which, okay, that's something, but now you need what to come up big, overclock the last hope. Vancouver Titans Blue, and has to stay on the objective, fighting face-to-face with Amelia, but she's wisely gonna go ahead and back off. Vancouver Titans Blue narrowly in control, but beautiful shot from what to put Amelia back down in her place. And Vancouver Titans, they're holding on right now, Ryan. It is amazing that they're able to stall for this long. You've got Spino back on the wrecking ball as well. Fable are gonna have to go ahead, get a reset here after losing that objective.
Yeah, that was a very long and drawn-out fight. It could have gone either way of either team, as both these Sojourns, What and Amelia, just taking out heads on either side of these teams. But now, with this composition, we are going to see, as you mentioned, the Wrecking Ball comes in for Vancouver Titans. That was a stall pick, but Wrecking Ball also a very good option against the Sigma, as long as you're kiting away from those rocks. Vancouver Titans, though, still, Fable just needs one fight to take this one. And that's not the best way to start this.
Nope. You're really looking for Spino to be the initiator here, right? You need Spino to get in and Phone to follow up. And first step of that, get your roll throughs. Don't get stuck against a wall. That's really going to get you literally nowhere here. So they're able to get around the backside. Avery just kind of keeping the Wrecking Ball away from their team, just sees them as a pest, but it's really slowing down the pace. Fable know that they have time to work with, and with Z Panther once again holding on to this ultimate, it's going to come out once again. This is the time to get aggressive, and Avery walks right in. No fear in the world with that extra damage coming on out. Fable were able to stabilize, and Vancouver Titans Blue, they're lost control once again. Managed to get some percentage, but they're back into this position where they're trying to get this stall, and with just a Wrecking Ball, Spinor barely hanging on to life, trying to grab these health packs just to return, to get back in time. It's something you get a little bit more to work with, but at the same point, Vancouver Titans Blue, they're so far staggered out here. They need a miracle to come back, and against Big Man's Visor, that is simply not going to be the case. Round number 1 going the way of Fable.
That was a really good job from Fable. Vancouver Titans Blue just kept getting picked either from Panther or from Amelia, taking those headshots, and that's where that scary factor of Ayari comes in, is the amount of damage she can do, that 2-shot potential on any squishy target in this game. I gotta give major credit though, right? That stall coming out from Vancouver Titans Blue was truly incredible, and then they were able to get to that 72%, but I need to see them play more as that team because you're going up against a lot of people who can just one-shot you, or two-shot in Ayari's case, and that leaves you in a very risky position. And Vancouver Titans Blue were just struggling to take that full fight, and then Fable, that ult management, they had to have to use any ults until the very end.
No, not at all. And I think that's what was the strong point of Fable, is that their ultimate management, their discipline there, really helped them come back into that point. And here they are, once again, coming out. This time on the Orisa, what we've expected to see more from Avery with McMahon and Amelia on some interesting DPS heroes. This Symmetra really can throw a wrench in some plans, but they need to be careful of what on the high ground has the sight lines with that Widowmaker. Kind of dodging and weaving, and look how much space that buys for BTB alone. They're all respecting until the teleporter comes up. This is what they're afraid of. McMahon looking for the Widowmaker, and she will not live to see another day off of that one. But the problem is now they've been so split up. Fable lost players because Bone has just been sitting down, anchoring on this Bastion, taking out several lives as they go, and that's the first cap for VTB.
Yeah, and I am glad to see that what switches over to that Sojourn. I respected the Widow pick, right, but going up against that Genji, not going to go great in your favor if you're trying to look for those picks early. But now we see almost an exact mirror, except the Ayari coming out from Claire for BTB, and then we're going to see the Baptiste from Panther and the Genji as well. So we do have some variations in this comp. Fable looking much more to brawl in, which is a lot different than what we just saw, and that's that type of flexibility that I was mentioning earlier on, how they could take their different fights.
That's the strong point here, is that you have many different ways to approach, especially with kind of this Symmetra here. Amelia and McMahon, there's not really one player that is set on hit scan or really that flex DPS specifically. So Vancouver Titans, they're able to take advantage of that a little bit on their own. Sebastian, early ultimate, buying some space. McMahon finds themselves with a rail shot to the head too, but beautiful trade out onto what was not watching where she was stepping at all. And it's been a pretty scrappy one, but one that Fable appears to be on top of for now. This is where those ultimates are going to come out, try to turn the tide around. Claire barely hanging on to her own health bar. Will be able to do so, get the ultimate off, and that Baptiste falling is going to be the end of Fable's push.
Yeah, I mean, Fable was doing a really good job there, and there were trades on either side. However, I do want to mention they only used that one ultimate ability coming out from Panther. Vancouver Titans Blue, on the other hand, using 3. We did see Phone use the Bastion Artillery Strike early on in the fight, but then both support ultimates used. And anyone who knows Overwatch, using both support ultimates, very, very risky, as we are going to see Fable has that sound barrier ready to go, as well as that Terror Surge almost.
I personally, I think the sound barrier from Jam is going to decide how this point goes. If this is a decent sound barrier to get the Fable in, then they have a chance to turn this point around, but it needs to be here and now. Vancouver Titans about to hit that 100% mark line, but what once again finds the head of McMahon. How does this keep happening? Vancouver Titans Blue, everything looks in the favor of Fable. They push in, they have an initiative, a direction to go with, but it's just coming out on top of these 1v1s. No matter what the trades come through, VTB were on top of this match, proving to be better in this Orisa mirror.
Yeah, and that's the question, right? I mean, VTB came out with that Orisa, right? So clearly they were more comfortable on that Orisa than they were running maybe another comp like we saw Fable coming out with that Sigma. So that synergy coming in rather than that flexibility. And now 1-1. We expected this match to be close, and this is kind of what we expected to see, right? Now, granted, VTB did a very good job last round. I think it was 100 to, I believe, 30, I believe. I may be off a little bit. But a lot more dominant of a performance than in round 1, where Fable gave up 70-ish%. So I'm actually curious to see. Fable is still looking to mirror the Orisa here, rather than maybe going for potentially even a jungle queen composition.
Which is interesting. I think Avery is more comfortable on this Orisa, which makes sense in my eyes. And I think the other part of it is the DPS line. The one thing that's been the big problem has been the Bastion. Phone has the ability to put out these insane amounts of damage just by anchoring down in this hero. And look how much Fable have to back off because of it. They end up getting split. You lose Jam like that, and there's just nothing left to be said for Fable here.
Yeah, I love this Bastion pick.
It's beautiful.
It's so much pressure coming out, and it puts Avery in such a hard position to live in, because yes, Orisa does have that fortify. You do have that extra sustain to just be a sitting punching bag. But when you're going up against an artillery strike, the punching bag's going to get punched around a little bit, and that's putting Fable in a really rough situation, because Vancouver Titans Blue also has a Lucio, so you can just bring your Orisa into the fight as well.
Yeah, BTB, they actually ended up switching their support comp from last time, Saffrona, now on the Lucio, which makes this so much easier for Final just to put in. They're not allowing Fable to escape their own spawns, because what? Just has been able to hit these shots. That's been the other thing that's been happening, Ryan, is what has been on top of their job as the Sojourn, just getting these 1 eliminations, and it's an instant 4v5, which Fable just don't want to take, and they need to stop staggering themselves out here too. They need to back off, get their extra player back.
Yeah, coming into this fight now, that 40% mark. BTB has some ultimates as well. They have that window online. Artillery strike going to be coming up as well here. Fable, on the other hand, going to have that visor, going to have window as it's already been popped.
And this is actually a good kite for Fable. I give them credit, but not good enough. Amelia ended up back in the corner. Phone saw her just watching, just like desperately, please leave me alone. And no mercy given by the Vancouver Titans Blue Squad today. Fable are not allowed to have any fun here on Mecha Base.
It's so jarring to see that javelin.
No, they did not.
Already taken out Jam. The visor's going to be used, but at this rate, Fable is just trying to find that fight, and Vancouver Titans Blue is perfectly fine taking anyone out to the ball game today.
This has been a reoccurring pattern right now. I mean, Vancouver Titans, you look at this map specifically, right? Mecha Base is not an easy point to retake just because you're forced to these small choke plays. Add a Bastion into the mix, and now what with an overclock? I mean, Fable, they don't have the speed to get out of here either, so they need to buy this space somehow. Ideally, that was with the Matrix, but look at that. Spider had no care of the world. Charge right in. Down goes the main support. Once again, Fable, this is their chance to stabilize, or the map is at risk. They do manage to get the cap over onto the point, but what? Got herself in that situation and said, nope, it is time to end. Took complete control, and Fable, even if they managed to get this measly 10% on the board, this is Vancouver Titans Blue looking to close this one out. They had such a strong start on this map too, and Fable have been struggling to regroup ever since, and the one that they finally get, they get the eliminations, but they cannot close it out. They don't get to the point, and what a brutal way to end this first map.
Yeah, I mean, it could have definitely gone in Fable's favor there. They were so incredibly close. But you got players like, what? I mean, she was going crazy that round.
She was nuts.
She was able to just find those heads. Here's one of them just walking down, and Fable had such a good opportunity to take this fight. And what? Just living the sound barrier coming in clutch. So now she could even be more aggressive in that fight, able to find those eliminations. And Vancouver Titans Blue really turning that map around.
They did. They really did. And I want to say one thing right here. What is a nut? What is a nut? That's exactly what she did, is that she decided to step up in those second two maps. And that really did help out Vancouver Titans Blue start to stabilize. And that, of course, was not the only part of it at all. And I do want to say that Fable also looked a little bit messier when it came to the Orisa. They didn't seem as coordinated. There's a lot of points where we saw either McMahon or Jam get picked off before a fight could be even taken. Now, that is, of course, because of what or Phone being in an off-angled position. And that's something that you really need to be having a read on, especially when you're going against some of these higher-level teams. Yeah,
and I think that's one of the things that I want to see, whether we go into Numbani or we go into Paradiso next. I think Fable just needs to understand that mirror of the Orisa is not going to go in their favor, right? You're going up against these players who are just going to run Bastion into you and are just going to literally laser you down and make your Fortify completely useless. So I think the best thing for Fable to do is go back to the comp they were taking that victory on, right? Now Sigma, a little bit harder to run depending on these two maps. However, I think they need to switch up their composition, make something a little bit different, because this Orisa comp, unless maybe they try to mirror it exactly, run that Bastion, run that Lucio as well, not going to go in their favor.
It's not. And I think that a lot of that also has to do with the fact that Avery does better on that Sigma, and also the DPS players, you go ahead, you look at McMahon, you look at Amelia, they're both more favored to kind of this longer range style of play. Amelia loves those snipers and the Sojourn alike, and McMahon wanted to play the Soldier. You didn't have a Bastion on the other side. There was an unequal amount of pressure onto the Fable's tank, and Avery, they didn't really have many options. You could put Panther and Jam onto stronger supports that can output more healing, but when Vancouver Titans Blue are just simply running you over, stampeding through your front line, there's not really much that Fable can do to really stabilize. So when they play the Sigma, they look strong. When they had Amelia and McMahon on the Sojourn and on the Soldier 76 with that shield to play behind, that is where they looked the strongest, and that's where they're going to need to lean to start to take them out.
Yeah, I think this is also where Fable maybe needs to think about using that flexibility in their roster.
Yeah.
Right? Like I mentioned earlier, Fable has that full roster sheet filled out, right? Every spot has been taken, so they have the ability to flex into these different types of maps. So, I mean, if I'm Fable, you know, like you mentioned, with what on those snipers, I think I'd encourage going into the Paradiso.
Yeah.
Even though, you know, that map is going to be very difficult, I think I would encourage it, right? Going into that map, going into the more sniper-esque than Numbani, where you're kind of just going to be dealing with TP Brawl half the time with an Orisa, which I am not opposed to.
Yeah, I was gonna
Never
say.
opposed to a Symmetra.
You're never opposed to a Symmetra, and I don't think Fable is either. And they
Yeah.
really wanted to get something done with that. The idea was there, it just was not as well executed. They took too long to get set up, was really what the problem became. And no matter what map they end up picking next, either Numbani or Paradiso, they're pretty similarly structured when you think about the way that they're run, with the high grounds kind of surrounding that first point, that you need to clear these areas first. That's where things like the Symmetra will come through. Or you could even, I don't want to see this, but we did see some Wrecking Ball. I'm going to ask nicely that this does not happen, but if it's the direction that Fable really thinks is going to work, go ahead and do it. Prove me wrong right now. That is what I want you to do as you pick this next map.
I could see it.
You?
I could see the
I
Wrecking
see
Ball.
it too.
So, okay, right. Going up against that Orisa composition, if you're not going to win the mirror, you've got to run something else,
You do.
right? And Avery is confident on that Wrecking Ball, right? Yes, Wrecking Ball in an interesting spot right now in the meta. However,
Yeah.
so is Junker Queen. And we've seen
Yeah.
JQ perform very, very well against Orisa comp. So I think maybe if they go with a more dive-esque style of Wrecking Ball rather than maybe running a Sojourn or rather running a Widowmaker, running maybe that Wrecking Ball kind of like you do with the Winston Sombra Tracer, you kind of go back to Overwatch 2 month 1 where you run the Wrecking Ball. I don't know, maybe throw a Brig in there. No, don't throw a Brig in there. That's a bad idea. That's a bad idea. Don't do that.
That's what you do.
That's what I would do. But go in, run that Wrecking Ball, maybe run more hard dive, and get on that backline, right? If you can just kite out that transform coming in from phone, the Wrecking Ball is going to be a very solid pick. Ignore the Javelin, get away from the transform, and the Wrecking Ball is actually pretty free to go in and do whatever they want.
And I think it brings up a valid point just in the idea that if you're going to change the pace of how you're playing, that could really help you too.
Yeah.
Spinogram, for example, they were just straight up marching into the backline. They could care less if Avery existed. Avery was invisible on their screen. There might have been some sort of bug going on, that Avery just didn't exist, all right? I am convinced that is what happens. Because on Mecha Base, Spino was in the backline. That's as simple as it was. They lose that Lucio speed so well. They were in control of the tempo. And they simply weren't. They simply weren't. And if they want to change that pace, you got to change your play style, or more likely, in the case of our hybrid selection, you need to change the map, which that selection has been made, as a matter of fact. We will be going to the lovely Numbani for our second selection. We do have a very interesting map pool for our hybrid maps. It's two that we don't see picked incredibly often, and I do wonder how much that has affected a lot of these teams.
Yeah, it is interesting to see. I mean, we have seen a lot of Numbani picked in contenders recently.
That's true.
So, and some of these players, as you're familiar with, are contenders players.
That's also
right. Some of these teams are fielded by the contender teams as well.
Yeah.
So I think there's definitely a lot of Numbani being picked for that reason a little bit. But I wouldn't mind seeing a Paradiso. It is a very interesting map pick. We don't see it very often at all. And I think it would definitely throw some of these teams off guard. I think that's a big thing as well, is when it comes to this meta right now, I think some of the best things you can do, especially in these close series, is to genuinely throw the other team off guard. Run the Wrecking Ball. Run the Paradiso. Run the Brigida. I don't care. Don't run Brig. Please don't run Brig.
Don't run Brig.
But throw the enemy team off guard. I think that's some of the best things you can do right now.
It genuinely is. And Numbani and Paradiso, again, pretty similar in the way that they're structured. And a lot of those compositions, they're going to be the same. Vancouver Titans Blue, they are taking a different route. I don't see this harming them whatsoever. What is still in a very strong position on this Ashe, on this hit scan in general. I am not so worried about that. The attacker side, on the other hand, if they actually end up sticking with this, I have mixed feelings. I really have mixed feelings. This is either going to work super duper well, they're going to run through first point, or it's going to get shut down immediately. I don't see it in between here.
Ideally, I think Avery should be on D.Va here. If you're more comfortable on the Wrecking Ball, that's fine. I think D.Va just does a lot more against especially Echo, Ashe, Sigma, Olari, basically 4/5 of the Vancouver Titans blue team. But if this Wrecking Ball works, you also can get those dives really hard, as they are already going to be going around on coast. and keep that pressure onto players like What and Claire and Saprona. So I do see this ball comp working out, especially if you have players like Amelia who are just going to be throwing logs of death into the backline.
You say logs, I say full-on tree trunks at that point. Just with Hanzo alone. I mean, getting a big headshot off would be great start for Fable, but you also have a lot of other good conditions. You're putting the Mercy Pocket onto Mickman here. You get Avery a setup, add in that damage-boosted Echo with either the sticky bombs or the focusing beam. This is the win condition that Fable are setting themselves up for. Now, actually initiating that has been a struggle so far. We're about a minute in without anything decisive really being done. A lot of pressure onto the tank of all players, which is quite interesting to see, but it does enough to force out the Immortality Field and Saffron to peel. That is a big pickoff. Even if you end up losing your Echo, there is still the potential for a resurrection, and the lack of support is going to hurt the Titans if they don't manage to get some sort of stabilization. But Fable also don't really seem to be engaging here either.
Yeah, that's the hardest part with this comp when you go around coast. You need to take that high ground that originally Spinar was on. That's the hardest part, but once you get that, now the point is so good for you to take, where Avery needs to pressure this point, and the duplicate is going to come out. Fable can very easily take this fight now.
Yeah, Fable wanted to take the fight, and they're going to have to use the duplicate to do it. Mickman got no value out of it, just had to use it to stay alive, instantly got chopped down. This is the problem with What right now. She is still on it. She's still cooking from map number 1, and Mickman just happens to be feeling all of her wrath that she is letting out upon this team. And Fable, they're still struggling to get something done. Phone alive and doing well on the Echo. Got their way into the backline. Fable, they're so split. That is the weakness of this composition, is because they're playing separately, they need to be able to watch their backs.
You know, the phrase "what is going on" tends to be a question, but in this case, what is quite literally going on, and just getting these eliminations and going crazy. Fable, once again, going to try and get onto this high ground. And Spinal really doesn't care.
No.
He's just going to chill. And I think that's the hardest part with Fable right now. They can't get onto this point as all abilities are gone for Mickman.
No, and they're not making a decisive move, but that is something. There's a tree trunk that hits somebody, but oh, Amelia, no. You had to stay alive there. That is not a good scenario for Fable right now. The minefield will buy a little bit of space coming through with the amount of ultimates that BTB have right now, Ryan. I mean, this is just their fight to win, honestly. Claire getting back up onto the high ground, adding an actual level of pressure onto Mickman. I mean, what's really the answer? Fable, they have a minute left to get something done, and near nothing left in their ult economy.
Yeah, I mean, Fable using the mines, using the dragons, as Amelia is going to switch over to this Tracer, and then Jam having that Valk only at 50%. Vancouver Titans Blue only used 2 ults there, and it was Gravitic Flux and Captive Sun. They still have a duplicate, so they basically have a zoning ultimate if they truly want it, or a pulse bomb. And Vancouver Titans Blue only has to do this for 40 seconds.
Yeah.
That's
it right there. Like, I don't even need to see more. I mean, What just shuts down Amelia? Amelia's job is, let's deal with What. She's being a problem. Amelia goes up, pop, goes your head. You don't have that anymore. So, yeah, no Tracer. That's just another fight bot. I mean, Fable, this is genuinely their last chance to push this, Ryan. And BTB, they're making this look like nothing.
Yeah, no, Vancouver Titans Blue is just playing their game and not caring about what comes next. And Fable does have this nano now. We'll also have the duplicate, and they're going to need to make something happen here, but not if Avery falls short, and this is exactly what Fable needs.
This is what they need. The one get set up that they get all game is giving Mickman that nano. You have that duplicate out. Mickman, when you give them the resources, there you go. They will absolutely pop off with what is given, and now being able to move through. Got a couple more of those eliminations, but Skyno still hanging on for dear life. The nano is coming back out. Vancouver Titans, they're not quite out of this yet. Those picks, they're coming back from the spawn. Fable haven't been able to stabilize this entire time. They get one good setup the entire attack, and that is it. They can't follow through, and it is going to result in a full hold on New Bonnie. We wanted to see something change. We wanted to see the changes placed out. We got it, but it just wasn't what we were expecting.
Someone get your phone now, because Phone with that nano saving Sigma, getting that fight back in their favor. I mean, final second. It was so close to falling back there, and that point would have definitely been given over to Fable, but the nano from Phone's duplicate, just barely in time, by the way. I want you to know how close Phone was to falling down there. Able to get that nano off, and just barely, I mean, split second, able to keep the Sigma alive.
It was genius.
Kept them the fight, and now I think Fable got a tick. No, they didn't. They got 0 ticks.
Nothing.
It is drawable.
Why would you say that? You wanted the draw in the beginning. I think you know something. You have the script. You have the script.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, really?
So
okay.
I guess we'll see. when it comes down to how exactly Fable wants to bring this one back, Amelia is going to bring out the Torb.
Okay, I'm not against this. Amelia, I've seen Amelia on Torbjorn before. This isn't bad, all right? Torbjorn actually has found a pretty solid place within the current meta because of the amount of like very steady poke damage you get between the turret, and not to mention, Torb really hurts. Might look small, but dang, that guy is tiny and mighty coming out there, and trust me, I would know that out of all people. Fable right now, they're trying to get a solid setup with this Sigma, get McMahon behind the shield, Amelia as well, but VTB, they're doing exactly what they just pulled out on Busan and here on their previous defense. Fable, they need to prove that they learned something.
Yeah, and I mean, Vancouver Titans Blue not going for that dive. They're just going to walk with phone on the Bastion and put in that damage, and if someone falls, that's going to be it for Fable. There's no way to come back from this, especially if you lose one of your supports like the Iari or the Baptiste. Once that happens, it's over. And now that you've just given that space for free for Vancouver Titans Blue, it's going to be hard to bring this one back for Fable.
The fact that the Titans are already on this high ground right now, I mean, comfortably, I can see What and Claire just vibing over on the right side while Phone is just lasering down Avery. They can't get a stable ground to stand on, and it's going to be a specific problem. Vancouver Titans, they have no problem taking this slow, getting those rotations in. All they need is a tick right now. That is all they need to be able to close out this match. And they already have the high ground to do it. They gave up the space, but what did end up falling? This is the advantage, that crossfire line across the objective. The positioning from McMahon and Amelia is good. Vancouver Titans, they can't get their foothold on just yet. They have plenty of time to work with.
Oh, yeah, but Vancouver Titans Blue, What switching to the Hanzo?
Oh, no.
This could go very, very bad for Fable. One headshot, and it's over. But what I was going to say here is it's going to be pretty neutral until these ults start coming out, and that's when things are going to get very, very dangerous. Both these teams are running basically the same composition here, just with a Soldier and a Torb and a Hanzo and an Echo as the fight's going to take place here. What just going to be searching for one person to take out.
That's really all you need to do on the Hanzo here. Already that Ant Matrix built up long before jams, and down goes McMahon. That one final blow going to be the go signal. Vancouver Titans Blue to make their way onto that objective. The tank falling too. Yep, that is just about it. Panther, you could do all you would like with your own ultimate. Maybe get Safrana out of the fight, but with 4 players looking at you, you are simply not going to stay alive. And Vancouver Titans Blue proving that they are the superior team in their round 4 matchup, going up to another 3-1 scoreline.
Yeah, and you know, one thing I want to mention, Vancouver Titans Blue basically just went with another mirror.
They did.
So that proves the amount of synergy that this team has, right? They're comfortable with each other. They know what each player can play, what they're comfortable on. Oh, this play was hilarious. McMahon trying to just stay alive from the bomb the whole time. But just staying alive, being like, okay, they're going to run this comp. We can mirror this, but let's make it comfortable for us, right? Phone, get on the Bastion. Just go ahead. Get on the Bastion, put in the pressure. And they did it with ease, right?
Yeah.
They were comfortable with it. And that's, I think, one of the biggest things is how comfortable Vancouver Titans Blue was. Now going to be 2-2. Fable, on the other hand, going to be 3-1. I said that wrong.
You said that correctly. It was
Other way around.
reverse the teams,
Reverse
but
the
pretty
teams.
much you get the concept heading into this. And I think that was one of our other questions too. Was Vancouver Titans Blue? They have this roster, these 5 players. We expect them to have that level of synergy. They proved that. But our question had to do is, can they be flexible? If they are forced to different comps, will they be able to match what Fable puts out? The answer to that, oh yeah, definitely. I don't have any doubt in my mind that Vancouver Titans Blue can outmatch Fable in their compositions. And I don't necessarily think is because Fable necessarily lacks the individual talent, but they lack the ability to put together these team plays, such as the Wrecking Ball. That is arguably one of the hardest compositions to synergize. Yeah. They just tried to run it, and they got one successful dive. That was it, and they got nothing after that. They had the point in their grasp, but got absolutely nowhere because they fell apart after that initial play. And that is going to be one of the major strengths that Vancouver Titans Blue has, and not one to be underestimated. They said that they were themselves the dark horse coming into this event, and you know what? I see the story coming to life now.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, that's also one of the big things that's really challenging in this really long, prolonged fight is you can do the best ult tracking in the world, right? And say, okay, they're going to have this ult and this ult and this ult. But once that fight happens and you're in a fight for 30, 40 seconds even, you start to just, it molds. And you're like, wait, do they have this now? What do they have? And the one fight that Fable had I don't think they were prepared for the Echo to come in with the duplicate on that Ana, get the Nano right then. They almost got the elimination, but not quite in time. That Nano basically secured Vancouver Titans Blue a win, in a sense.
They did, and they almost got them that win, too. And the fact that it was so close and you let it slip through your fingers at the very last second, that just hurts. It hurts. It really, really does.
And one thing they have to think about now, right, is that loss definitely burns, right? You're definitely thinking about that loss, and that's going to be a VOD review right before you get into this next match. But that's going to be something that you can't let affect your next match, right? Fable needs to go into their next match thinking, okay, yes, we did a little bit of an oopsie on Numbani, but that's okay. We go in strong because we still have a chance to get through this. Just because they're 2-2, they still have that chance, but they have to win this one if they want to still stand that chance of being one of those top 8 teams.
Yes, that top 8 is getting rather close because you do still have 3 teams at this time, well, as we know of for now, that were undefeated heading into round number 4.
Yeah.
And right now, that's pretty much guaranteed those 3 spots. So if you get a losing record, you're pretty much not making it into those top 8. So this needs to be Fable starting to turn it around. If they can get themselves that next win, there's a small chance that we can see them heading into the playoffs coming to next weekend. But for now, that will not be the case. Vancouver Titans Blue, on the other hand, 3-1 right now. They win their next match, they're pretty much set to go for the playoffs here.
Yeah, being that close. But on the same thing for Vancouver Titans Blue, right? They need to be ready. They need to understand. They've got one more to go, right? You're not done yet. You're not out of the woods yet. You've still got one more to go. You still got to take that victory because you can be one of those teams on that cutoff line if you take a loss next.
Yeah, and exactly. You need to keep yourself in the game. Laser focused. I get it. This win is going to feel so darn good, especially when you look at the talent that was on Fable right now. And don't let that get you in your head either. You cannot go into this overconfident. That is arguably weaker than coming in with that extra loss. So, right now, we finished up our round number 4. At least for this match, it was a 2-0. However, we do have some teams that ended up going to the round 3, just like we thought they would. Ryan, would you look at that? So we're going to go ahead, jump into one of those next matches. Before we get there, we're going to head to a short break, get everything set up, so don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to the Calling All Heroes Unite 2 Minor. We had such a good, quite fascinating, I gotta say, round 4, our fourth round of Swiss coming in here. We're not down to round 4 just yet.
No.
We actually have some of these matches as expected. I told you we had a feeling that we'd be going to a map 3, and here we are. Map 3 coming up for 2 of our teams. We got Azathoth taking on Sheik Akami. Both of these teams sponsored by contenders organizations coming in to the Calling Our Heroes roster. And, you know, we're quite familiar with these players, especially being big lovers of the scene, of course, and seeing that they're here in this round 3 matchup, I'm not too surprised. When I saw this matchup, when I was looking through all these round 4s, like, which one do we get to cast? I saw this one, I'm like, ooh, this is going to be such a close match coming into it. And here we are, Flashpoint, New Junk City. That's where it's going to be decided.
Yeah, and is it really surprised that we saw Numbani for the second one? No, not
Anybody?
really.
No, absolutely
But
not.
yeah, Azathoth being one of those 3 teams that are undefeated, Shikigami being 2-1. But before I even talk a little bit, I do want a little fun fact. Azathoth, do you know where that came from?
I do not. Where'd it come from?
It is one of the most powerful deities in H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu world. Yeah, I looked up a picture of it. It kind of looks like an octopus. But I mean, H.P. Lovecraft, that's kind of one of his things, is tentacle monsters. So Azathoth being one of the most powerful deities in the Cthulhu world.
Okay.
And being an octopus, in a sense. It's just a big, scary mouth. You can look it up later. But
I might have to. I might have to look that one up a little bit later, to be honest with you. I mean, the logo itself looks pretty darn cool, I gotta say. I mean, it does have how many? Does that have 8? It does have 8. It has 8 tentacles. Or
Tentacles?
Points? Triangles?
Points?
I got this. I got this. I know how to look. Sometimes. It depends on the day, honestly.
Yeah, but there's your fun fact for the day. A little food for thought there as we are going to go into New Junk City. These teams 1-1. Azathoth looking to continue that perfect record here. Shikigami looking to go up and be 3-1 and be one of those contending teams for the start. New Junk City, Flashpoint that we've seen, I think, in every map 3 that we have seen so far. I'm curious to see what we see from these 2 teams. Probably coming out with a Lucio, going on maps like Flashpoint. Maybe seeing some Orisa. I did see some of the games from Azathoth yesterday that did like to run some Junker Queen as well as Orisa. So I guess we'll see what these 2 teams want to come out with.
And I do want to say that you mentioned the Junker Queen specifically, Jacoby currently sitting on that role. It's not a bad pick at all. We've seen quite a few both contenders and Overwatch League level teams start to pull this off, specifically on Flashpoint, because you have essentially a second speed boost that you can work with here, and Jacoby's going to be able to use that to their advantage. Of course, Shikigami themselves opting for the Doomfist to go ahead, check that one off your tank bingo card. You said it would happen, Sneaky? Well, there you go. You get your Doomfist, and Wiz was not ready to greet it. Ends up taking a first-class trip back to the spawn rooms. Jacoby not able to get that initiation off as quickly as you liked, and that's kind of the advantage of running the Doomfist as your tank, is this disrupting factor, allowing players like Wi-Fi and Mercedes to deal that additional damage, while Azathoth, they're stuck, they're stunned, they don't really know where the rest of their team is. They end up getting split up, and that's Shikigami for first cap.
Yeah, and Azathoth immediately says, all right, Wiz, go on the Sombra. We're not dealing with the Doomfist today. You can't blame him, right? I mean, you're going against Shikigami, who's just going to run this pure brawl into you with a Lucio and a Kiriko. It's going to happen. Shikigami does finally get the point, by the way. Just now happens as Tide finds those final 2 picks. But Azathoth now needs to reevaluate what they want to do. Obviously, Wiz going to be that deciding factor of finding these eliminations and really putting a disruption on Chuck E. Cheese.
And that's kind of the goal of it here. I mean, Wiz was so mad. Like, nope, I'm not doing this. Sorry, bro. That's fine. I get it. I would do the exact same thing. It's the good Doomfist that really become the issue. Everyone else is made like, oh, I can deal with this. But Chuck E. Cheese has proven to be one of those to be feared. Wiz making that immediate swap, but doesn't get the translocator off either. So Wiz still not having the best of luck with the Doomfist or with Shikigami as a whole. They're going to regroup around that Kitsune rush and just continue to build up this ult charge. These points, they tick up so quickly, 1.8 percentage per second. And Azathoth, they're not going to have many fights as a result. Palat even drops the beat there. Only hit onto 2 players. It's going to be a little bit of sustain as Shikigami, they lost one of their own, but nobody really near the objective. Azathoth not quite ready to make a decisive move onto this point, hoping to get Jacoby's Rampage up online to give you some sort of option to look for. But I mean, I look on the other side, I see a Dragon Blade, and I see no Oppie at all here. So Shikigami can pull this blade with ease and walk away with Arena in tow.
Yeah, and with that, Shikigami showing such a dominant performance on a Doomfist. Yeah, I just said that. I did just say Doomfist.
Do you think you'd be saying that today?
No.
Just no.
No, like there's no way. The only other character that I would expect less would be Roadhog, and now that I say that, if we see that next,
we're gonna say Roadhog now. That's just how it works.
If we do, I don't know. I don't know. But what I am going to say about this is this, right? Shikigami doing a really good job keeping that really hard pressure, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we saw players like Sheep not even getting an option, not really even getting a chance to play that Genji. And Wiz, unfortunately, always getting just caught out by without being able to do anything on Sombra by Shikigami, normally by the character they were trying to hack, like Doomfist. So that puts you in a really interesting situation because you can't really run Brig much anymore for the CC. So the next thing you can really do is run Cassidy. I mean, but you don't really want to, right?
No.
You don't want to go into that really speedy brawl. So
no.
But I am curious to see this Doomfist over the Junker Queen with the Lucio carry composition. That is interesting to me.
I can't say I expected to see this on New Junk City. I did expect to see something other than Orisa potentially, like the Junker Queen. Doomfist wasn't there. It wasn't in the cards for anybody really, especially when you look at how Adesoth is starting to play. They're scrambling to make a change. They went over to the Sombra, and Wiz couldn't really get anything done, and they're struggling to get a regroup. These spawns are so gosh dang long. It takes forever to walk through the map if you go down, and seriously, I feel like that's how I end up playing Flashpoint, is halfway through, like half the map, I'm just walking. I'm trying to figure out where I'm going. I am lost. I hope that's not the case for Wiz at all. But it's not fun to have to do it either.
No, it's not. At Flashpoint, that's what makes it really difficult with Flashpoint is you take that fight, right? You maybe want to change up your composition. Maybe you lose the next fight. All right, you've lost 2 fights. The other team has ultimates, and by the way, they're also at 79%. Right? It's so incredibly fast because I think control is 1.2 seconds per 1% every 1.2 seconds,
something
or something
like that. Yeah.
And then for Flashpoint, it's 1.8, you get 2%. It's incredible how fast that's going. And so losing that fight is so crucial. I think that's also a big thing as well, is thinking, all right, we're not going to win this point. Let's just entirely switch up our composition, go in, force out ultimate abilities, get our own ultimate abilities, and let's go play the next point for our composition. And that's that's the good thing about Flashpoint, right? Is you can change your composition, but you've got to be on the ball about it.
You do, and Flashpoint is a very interesting map type for the reasoning of when you're picking a composition, that's one of the many, many decisions you need to make. Flashpoint specifically really amplifies what you need to do in terms of, am I going to take this fight in the first place? Do you back off? Do you risk having your next Flashpoint be halfway across the map, then you have to feed into the enemy, try to get the close spawns? It's a whole mess. There's a lot of high-risk, high-reward situations where that decision-making really comes into play. And having the advantage here, getting that first win on Arena. Of course, you're in the central point, so rotations are going to be much easier for that winning team specifically. But, I mean, we continue to look at this, Ryan, and we start to think, like, what really is the next move here? What does Adesoth specifically want to improve on as they continue to head into this one?
Yeah, I think that is the question, right? Is where do you go next?
Exactly.
I mean, do you end up going to Ducks? Do you go to Refinery? Where are you going next? How are you going to get there? How fast do you want to get there? What composition do you want to run? How many ults do you want to expend while doing it? What do you want to do to the enemy team while doing that? By the way, did you get forward spawn? I mean, I could go on a list of 20 questions, but I don't want to bore everyone. But here's the thing, right? You have to ask yourself so many different things.
You do.
And that's where that role of Jacoby comes in, right? Those tanks on either side of the team, what do we do? There's 1,000 things going through your mind, and now you got to zone in. What do we do? What do we prioritize first so that we can go next? Because like you said, you don't want to run into a situation where you run into someone's spawn. You take a fight, then their spawn is closer to the next point, and you're like, well, why did you just win that fight for?
Exactly.
It's like you don't want to lose all that percentage.
No.
So.
And it's something that's caught a lot of teams off guard, too, is the amount of times that I've either seen a C9 or somebody thought, oh, yeah, we'll take this fight. Oh, wait, the point ended. That's not good. That happens a lot. This is still a new game mode where teams are starting to get used to how it plays, as a matter of fact. So thankfully we are back in. We did end up losing a player on the side of Adesoth, but good news is that they are back in, safe and sound, ready to continue on moving forwards. And it's going to depend a lot on where this rotation is taken next for the point. And ooh, this is quite an interesting one to be.
Yeah, I mean, Wiz switching over to the Tracer here. If you're not going to get value on the Sombra, I respect the switch, right? You want to go for that damage, maybe try to get a pick, but, I mean, who are you really going to get here, right? Mercedes, force out a cleanse, potentially. It's very risky to run this very low damage composition coming out from the side of Sheep and Wiz when you really only have Jacoby. But as I say that, Sheep is just going to go for a blade.
Sheep's going to go for a blade, but Mercedes is off on this little angle. They're in the perch, able to get that tack visor off, which gives Shikigami a fighting chance. Sheep didn't get that value out of the Dragon Blade that Adesoth really wanted. They couldn't get the follow-up, and they're going to end up falling as a result. Still, these trades are coming in across. Wiz is still alive. Oh my gosh, it is a miracle, Ryan, that Wiz is has managed to stay alive through this entire fight, but still, a couple players hanging around Azathoth want to get this first capture, just a little bit of percentage, which is going to be perfect for them.
Ooh, yeah. Chuck E. Cheese, though, almost messing up that punch. Could get them punished. This Pulse Bomb is ready.
Pulse Bomb's ready here. Wiz wants to do something this game. Lived through their very first fight, wants to get a little bit more healing. They want to get aggressive, find a target for that Pulse Bomb. They're going to have to do it quickly with Palette falling. That is not the hero that you want to lose first, especially when you need that speed to rush on to one of these players. And Shikigami, they're going to be safe here. They got the Kitsune rush just for an extra little piece of insurance, and they're going to get that point right back. Still, Azathoth, they got a decent amount of progress here. I look at those ultimates, though, and it does make me question, how long can Shikigami keep up Azathoth?
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? You have that sound barrier, you're going to have Meteor Strike, you almost have Blade here at 75%. Azathoth, on the other hand, really just have sound barrier. So you have to, you don't want to go first here, right? You don't want to try to control tempo with that beat, because then you're just going to get counter beated, and then a Meteor Strike's going to come in, and then you're just going to fall apart.
Yep.
But like you mentioned, Azathoth was able to get that 45%, and Shikigami now going to meet it up. All ultimates are being used now.
Everything needs to come out for Shikigami right now. Chuck E. Cheese took a huge burst of damage at the beginning, forced out that Meteor Strike, and that's okay. The Doomfist lives, Sheep shall not. That is as simple as it is going. Shikigami are doing such a great job displacing members of Azathoth. Azathoth, all they want to do is make a straight rush off of the back of a Rampage, which they do find some fruition to that play. But Wi-Fi pops the Blade, is trading these eliminations blow for blow right here. With all the large abilities coming into play for this round, it's going to come down to really the meat of it, and this is one that Azathoth wants to win to prevent going into reverse sweep type of scenario. They got Chuck E. Cheese and now Taide. Be able to close this one out, or at least get Shikigami off the point, I hope. Yes, okay, Paulette, they're giving us some sort of stability to start to look at. It's like, okay, Azathoth, they can do this.
Yeah, and they do have 3 ultimates here.
They
so Azathoth actually played that really, really well, but that's kind of one of the things with Shikigami's composition, is you can just have your Kiriko go on point, you can have your Doomfist, you can have your Genji, your Lucio all stall, and that's exactly what they did. But Shikigami really only has this visor to go in, and closest next thing is going to be that Kitsune. So Azathoth going to just want to try to go on this one fast.
Ooh, it's aggressive, and they have to. Maturities, you've got to be afraid of that attack visor, so she pulls out the blade, just slice and dice through that Soldier 76. Don't have to worry about the aimbot or Chuck E. Cheese, as a matter of fact. Azathoth, they got themselves back in control, and this is the usage of that ultimates we wanted to see. That's been something Shikigami has exceeded their opponents in so far, but Azathoth did a great job of balancing that out and closing out their point.
There we go, Sheep with a really beautiful blade. And now, look at how fast Azathoth's already rotating that point. You really got a 50-50 chance, and they already went for it. They went straight for that point, and they're already going to be there. Going to be meeting up Shikigami very, very closely, though, next to this point. And the first pick's already taken with a deflect on the Mercedes.
Ooh, that's a great start for Azathoth. Not the way that Mercedes wanted to go down. I can absolutely guarantee you that fact. But still being on the point, Azathoth, they do have the player advantage here. What are they actually going to end up using, though, is the big question. They got Chuck E. Cheese out of the fight, and Megatron. The Kitsune rush was out, and you don't have players to exactly follow up in it. That ultimate goes down the drain. That was a huge chance of them coming back into the fight as a 5-stack, but with that gone, Azathoth, they're going to get that first percentage again.
Yeah, they are, and they were also able to force out that Kitsune rush, which is so crucial for Shikigami to go back in. They will have Sound Barrier, they will have Meteor Strike, and they're going to be about 80 for that Blade, but Azathoth going to have almost 3 ultimates of their own here with Jacoby, Wiz, and Paulette with their ultimate abilities. So Azathoth looking very, very good, already approaching that 40% mark. They're very, very confident here, and Wiz already searching for their target.
They know what's there. Goes for the Kiriko. Just a little bit too far out to the side and can't get that elimination off. Shikigami, this is their chance to regroup. Sound Barrier is out, but they can't get healed anywhere past that. Hits all 5 members of the team. Jacoby coming in with a huge play to put Azathoth in a winning position. It was a costly fight, but one that will pay off so well in the long run.
Yeah, it was Azathoth now with that Kitsune Rush and Blade going to be their next abilities here. If you're Shikigami, I don't know, right? You have to either get on this point fast or you just rotate. And I think if you lose one member of your team early, you just rotate. You just say, no, we're not going to take this.
Well, yeah, you don't want to take this.
Yeah.
You don't. You have the Kitsune Rush there. Obby did a good job initiating, but Wi-Fi still has the blade. Found one and a second. Has to look for more, but they're so far out. Oh no, Wiz! Recalled straight into the line of danger. Shikakami managed to get the flip back. Wi-Fi proving to be the hero for their team at this time, but there are still many members of Athos. There's lining around and waiting. Jacoby most notably spots out the Doomfist. There's not much health to spare. Surely they get these eliminations off. That seems to be the case right now. Wi-Fi, no health left in the tank to continue it forwards while the hero play. It sure darn looked flashy. Shikakami, they are struggling to hang on right now, even with Mercedes putting every ounce of energy they can into this point. This is a losing battle that Shikakami just fought, and using all of those ultimates at the tail end to put that stall is not going to set them up well for round 4.
Yeah, and that's the scary thing, right, is Azathoth now. Look at this ult rotation they have. They're already going to be coming up on the Blade, on the Sound Barrier, and on the Rampage as well. I think we just saw three of those ultimate abilities. Azathoth knows this ult rotation, and they're perfectly fine with it. Shikakami now going to switch up their composition off that Doomfist and on to the Orisa. I do like this, but they have to be careful, because once that Fortify is gone, Azathoth's just going to walk it.
Or Athos's just going to try to walk at them initially. Sheep got a little bit too overzealous. All right, Sheep, that I get it. You know what? Sometimes you just got to stick with the herd. Probably should have done that there, because Athos, they don't have a lot of that damage they wanted to use. They're still committing their ultimates into a Jacoby Unleashed the Rampage. At least you traded out for the Sound Barrier, but at this rate, you're down a player and now 3. Azathoth, so much went out. Even the Sound Barrier, I don't even think the Sound Barrier went off right there, Ryan.
Yeah, I truly
Oh,
don't.
no.
I truly don't know. It could've-
Worst case scenario right there.
Yeah, and now Azathoth also going to switch over to the Orisa here. But with this, Wiz also going to go onto the Sojourn, an entire comp switch coming out from Azathoth, and as I say that, it's a really just 2-member switch. But now it's going to be more of that mirror. But Azathoth, kind of like we just saw last game, both these teams have that Lucio, so they're going to go hard brawl. Shikakami's already going to be looking at this 50%. It's going to get close.
Most certainly is. Battle, kind of the poke of these Orisas going to come in. Mercedes gets that headshot onto Sheep. Sheep is now the one that is not having a good time in terms of the DPS players of Azathoth, and Shikakami, they're just going to win it off of that. Azathoth, they're not going to take that fight, and look at the ultimates right now.
Yeah,
Like,
Shikakami. 3 ultimates to their name. They're looking very, very strong. Azathoth just trying to find their way back onto this point, but this window is going to be used. I'm willing to bet. There it is.
Oh! Wiz, nice shot! Shutting down Megatron. Wanted to use that amplification matrix, but the Baptiste gone. This is Azathoth's chance to go ahead and make that play, but Obby gets too aggressive themselves and gets traded out. Oh no! Chuck E. Cheese and Wi-Fi still able to make the damage happen. Azathoth, sure, you got the switch, but you have no one left to be able to defend that point. It started off so well, but it all just fell apart. Tore as the fight continued to progress, and you know what? I don't think it would be right, Ryan, if we didn't go all the distance here on our Flashpoint map. One more round to decide this one out.
Yeah, I mean, going all the way round 4. What do you expect, right? I mean, the teams are going to get closer. Round 5, round 4, 5. 5 points on the map. It's round 4 still, though. That numbers. I'm a numbers guy, and I'm struggling with numbers.
Sure.
But anyways, here, final point is going to be here, and Mercedes is going to just get rid of that Torb turret coming out from Sheep. Azathoth needs to make something happen, and they have the ults to do it.
Azathoth, last time they had the ultimate advantage, they completely fumbled the bag. Please don't do that again. I'm asking you very nicely to put this one out. Obby, amplification matrix, cool, that looks great. Can you keep Wi-Fi off of your backline? The answer is yes, you can, but Megatron was able to get back in there themselves. Jacoby had to rush in, make a play, still managed to get a little bit of space and distance, but the fact that Shikakami are in control makes it difficult for Azathoth to come back in, but Jacoby is doing the work of 10 people right about now. Runs through 3 players and proceeds to clean it up with Wiz and Powlett. That is the Azathoth. That is the fight we needed them to take.
That is the Battle Cattle in action coming out from Jacoby. Sheep going to have this Molten Core. Powlett going to have Sound Barrier here. Shikakami, on the other hand, they invested a lot that fight. Closest thing they can have is going to be that Terra Surge. This is where things get risky, right? If one of these teams can have that ult advantage and they take control of that tempo, you just said goodbye to this entire game.
You did, and this is Flashpoint is so difficult to manage because of that ultimate economy specifically. It's where these decisions, you've been making them all map. Round number 5, that is where they are going to be decided. Early sound barrier here from Powlett, has to get aggressive. Megatron going down. There isn't a lot of support left for Chucky Keys, especially standing it in the molten lava. Beautiful placement from Sheep right now. The swap's been paying off, but Wi-Fi is still alive, causing a problem. Not for much longer though. That Torb, that switch to the Torbjorn from Sheep is just what Azeroth needed right now to pull this one together. They're down and beaten.
Yeah, and now Shikigami with that stagger onto Mercedes, that is going to be crucial for them. And Azeroth also already has his Terra Surge getting ready. Will also have that Amplification Matrix very, very soon. Shikigami only has Amp Matrix.
That's it. That is the only thing that they have to work with, and it needs to be big or mega, as you can say, as Megatron puts that down on the objective. It does a little bit of zoning, but not as much work as Azeroth. They can still just kind of play around the central position of the pillar in the point. Now Oppie can come back with one of their own, a much better positioning, I could argue here. Plenty of support coming in for Jacoby. We're looking for the opportunity to use that Terror Surge, drawing the players in. Can they escape? Megatron cannot. Azeroth had a huge advantage in this fight. All they have to do is close it out. It's been a struggle so far, and losing the tank is already not a good sign for them whatsoever. The ultimate's coming online for both teams. That Salbury being a big one. Tide, is she going to be the savior for her team? Coming into this, barely manages to stay alive. Azeroth, they're still hanging around. They can afford to give up this percentage, and they might as well go ahead with it because Shikigami, they have control and the ultimates.
Yeah, they have control, and now they have the ultimates. Azeroth had that one in the bag. And then they backed up, right? They backed up, and I do like that decision. You're able to force some ultimates out, but now it's going to be ult on either side, right? Wiz, overclock soon, sound barrier, molten core, window is going to be at 70, Shikigami, visor, blade, Terror Surge almost ready. Final fight territory for both of these teams, and it's going to be whoever dies first.
And whoever dies first, it's Azeroth. Beautiful deflect from Wi-Fi once again, coming up to be the hero, the decisive decision maker for Shikigami. This has gone the distance. The team kill, the bell of death for Azeroth, and the bell of victory for Shikigami. Azeroth not even going to come close to contesting this injective, and the once undefeated team in Azeroth has fallen down. Shikigami taking that win off of Azeroth is such a huge step for them in the Swiss stage.
Yeah, Azeroth really tried there, but they didn't control tempo in that last fight. They let Shikigami go first. I know you were lower on the ultimate percentages, but you had to go first there. You had to invest that one ultimate you did have so you can get the rest of your ults and then go forward. And they just weren't able to do that. The blade comes in from Shikigami, and now Azeroth, that perfect record, now going to be stained with a loss from Shikigami.
And that one really hurts too, because Azeroth, they're coming to this, what was it, confident 4th place team. Confident heading into 4th place. And I don't mean in the Switch stage, I mean in the whole tournament. I mean in the playoffs in general. And granted, they still won their first 3 games.
Yeah.
Once they got up there though, Shikigami was one of those teams that like I had an eye on, but also isn't one of those big frontrunners like I see in Washington Timeless or the Valiant Guardians specifically. Yep. So seeing them go down to Shikigami right here does start to show that they do have some weak points and a lot of spots that they can start to improve on.
Yeah, and that's that sign of life that we get from Shikigami as well, right? Yeah. Now both these teams are going to be 3-1. Now both of them are still on that top level, right? True. They're both still at that level of being able to take this and go into the playoffs. So if you're either one of these teams, yes, if you're Azeroth, you may take that and be like, that one hurts, right? We could have easily won that one. But, you know, on both sides, you're like, okay, cool, right? We both are 3-1. We're both, I believe, still in the top 8. So it's a little bit more competitive now if you're Azeroth, right? But I think you're still okay with this, and you just have to keep that in your mind going forward and saying, all right, our next match, stay calm, get into it, and don't be surprised by a Doomfist.
Okay, Chuck E. Cheese on the Doomfist was expected. No. Was it fun? Yes. And I think that already put Azeroth, it rubbed their fur backwards, essentially, is what happens there. They didn't expect that to happen, and they lost a big chunk of their mental. We physically saw the spaghetti being dropped on the floor as soon as that Doomfist came out. And after the swap came in, they were more confident. Like, okay, we know how to play against Narissa. We've done that plenty of times. Jacoby seems very comfortable on the battle cattle themselves. So I look at all of these swaps, and Shikigami right here, because they got that early start and were therefore able to kind of snowball that momentum forwards. Azethoth had a lot of points, seemed unsure of how to end fights. They could start them very well, I will say.
Oh, yeah.
But ending them was not a strong point. Shikigami just had that clutch factor. Wi-Fi just had that clutch factor. I mean, this is a perfect moment right here with that Dragon Blade. Picked up 3 and managed to hold on a lot more percentage than you probably should have gotten here. And it's just these small plays like that Shikigami really able to take, put them into a bowl, and come out with a whole birthday cake at the end to celebrate their win.
Yeah, and that's what it came down to, right? And I think that is one thing I'm curious to see with these two teams going forward, right? Like, yes, we've seen the Valiant Guardians a little bit. They run a lot of that Orisa. We've seen Washington Timeless. They can flex to the different types of compositions, including the Junker Queen. I'm curious to see Azethoth and Shikigami, both these teams, able to run the Orisa, Junker Queen, Doomfist. It's interesting to see.
Yeah.
These two teams, I think, are definitely going to be some teams to watch out for going into this next round 5, because they're going to be teams that are like, we'll play meta against you, but we're also going to play what we feel comfortable on, and that's scary.
That is the scary thing, because there is a strong balance between what is good, what heroes are actually strong within the current meta, what patch notes have come in to make them powerful, aka Orisa in this sense. But then you also have teams, such as Shikigami here, that are so confident in their own playstyle, of their ability to succeed with that Doom specifically, where they can come in, they can run it, no fear. That's it. They're done.
Yeah, and that's what it is, right? They just go in, no fear, we'll do whatever we want.
Exactly.
And so I'm curious. I'm curious. Round 5. Definitely both Azethoth and Fable, both these teams need to reset their mentals going into round number 5, because that's very, very crucial for you, including for teams like Fable, who are probably on that cusp of being eliminated out of this Swiss stage and not being able to make it to next week. So both these teams need to reset and go into round 5. But on the other hand, for Shikigami and Vancouver Titans Blue, you need to make sure you don't get too cocky.
Exactly. You need to be very careful with how you're playing moving forward. Don't let these wins get to the head. Don't your losses get to your heads. It's about those teams that can stay stable throughout, those who have the competitive experience. But of course, with any good match, it becomes a good break in between, giving these teams some time to go head back, talk to their coaches. What went well, what didn't. We're going to do the exact same thing ourselves here as we prepare for Swiss round number 5, which will be coming up after a short break. We'll see you on the other side. wow, what a round 4 that really was, that we were able to end off on. Ryan, I'm so glad that we got to touch the tail end of that series. I mean, Shikakami and, of course, Azathoth as well, took that last map 3 to the distance. You really could not have gone much farther than 99 to 99 on a Flashpoint map to begin with. And, we didn't get to see much of the beginning of the series, which is very, very sad because I would have loved to see that too. But unfortunately, there are only 2 of us. I can't talk in 2 different voices at the same time. If that could, that would be super cool. But I can't. Thankfully, we have the lovely Megatron joining us on the broadcast. Just came away with that win from Shikakami. Did an excellent job playing, by the way. I really, really loved your gameplay. But I want you to tell us what really happened in those first 2 maps. Kind of give us a summary of how this series began.
Our first map was shaky. That we have a problem with that map. It's fun. So, that didn't go our way, but we were like, no, we got this. We can win. So we played Numbani on our second map, and I think we just played better and we held them. So we were excited about that. And then I was saying this before. I was like, we had prod last time. And I was like, we're definitely gonna go to map 3. It's the secondary stream. I'm like, we're just gonna go to map 3. So when we lost the first round, I was like, no, we're going to map 3. And the team really banded together. We tried. I think we work well under pressure. When the going's tough, we go. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you guys did such a good job, especially, like I said, we got to see that third map. Kind of jealous we didn't get to see those first 2 maps. Don't really know who I'm jealous of. I mean, I guess I'm jealous of you guys. You got to play it. But I am curious, right? That third map, it's kind of like Control, if you're going 99 to 99 all 3 rounds. But this time, you're going 99 to 99 on 5 different points. And I guess my question to you is this, right? That final point, that final fight, when Azathoth was on that 99% threshold, you guys had no ultimate abilities. Your closest was about 80%. What was sort of going through the team during the comms? What was happening during that fight as you guys were so close to potentially losing that round?
I mean, we were setting up our positions, and we were basically saying okay, don't die, don't let them get a pick on you, because I had died the first beginning of the last 2 fights. And since we had the point, we were pretty comfortable. So I got back to the fight, and I was like, all right, I'm not gonna have them force me to use anything. We didn't want them to force us, so we kind of forced them to use stuff, and then we got those 2 picks right away that I think my DPS got with our Orisa. And we just went. We were like, this is it. We made that final fight, right? So we went in, we cleaned it up, and then we kind of knew they couldn't touch, so we pushed forward we forced them to use their ults, pretty much, walking out of spawn, because that's when they saw us. And yeah, I mean, I would say it was an intense voice comm, and then we got those 2 picks, and then we were like, go, 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 go. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, hey, and sometimes that is as simple as it gets. And we're over here, we're talking about breaking down these tiny little bit things. But in reality, the game of Overwatch happens so fast that a lot of players, you need to make these decisions on your own time. It's as simple as do not die. That really end up sticking with you, to be totally honest. And, you laugh at that, but that is genuinely a very good thing to say. It's out there. People will listen to that. I can tell you for a fact. And you guys really showed that in the end, you're able to rally back, take away New Junk City, and as a result, your Swiss match number 4. So that sets you guys up in a pretty good spot heading into round number 5 and potentially as well as playoffs, depending on how your map 5 goes. So before we let you go here, let you go back to your team, discuss what's going to happen for your next game, I kind of want to know, what are your kind of thoughts on the whole tournament? Do you have any additional shout-outs you'd like to make, and kind of your experience been in this so far?
I've had a really great experience with it. It's really awesome to see that the last 2 tournaments or whatever are getting sponsored. But I've really enjoyed this whole circuit so far. I think it's been really, really well done. The production is listen to the players when some changes need to be made. I really liked it. So props to production and props to all the teams and everything. It's been a blast. So. Yeah, I think my team's calling me. I think our match is starting. So, but yeah, thank you guys for interviewing. I don't know.
Hey, you know what? When they call, you must answer. So go ahead. It was great to speak with you, Megatron, and we're really looking forward to see Shikakami's experience as their journey continues through the game number 5 that you guys are about to play. So go ahead, go back to your team, don't get in any trouble, and we will look forward to seeing you around, maybe in another interview.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Of course.
Bye.
Well, it was great to see Megatron. I'm really glad that we got that insight. The don't die. Oh, that's going to stick with me forever.
Don't die,
I absolutely
yeah.
love that.
It kind of makes everything I say just completely obsolete. It's like, those ultimate abilities, you don't want to get any of them forced out. You want to make sure you take the position. Just don't die. Okay. Well,
Simple as that.
I mean, but, we make jokes about that, but
Yeah.
frankly, it really is. Like,
It is.
It feels like common sense, right? Just don't die, right? Yeah, no, sometimes that calm needs to be made, right? Just don't die. It's all you have to do. And Shikigami showing us up like that.
No, exactly. Hey, one of my favorite quotes is, common sense ain't so common, people. And sometimes things as simple as that, it works out. And in Shikigami's case, there they go. They went ahead, took down an undefeated team in Azathoth, and as they're getting prepared for game number 5. I think we gotta about do the same here on the broadcast and production site. So we're gonna go ahead and do those things. We'll go ahead and see you round number 5 coming to you in just a bit. here we are. Can I believe it? I certainly cannot. These last 4 rounds have just simply flown by. They really have. Here we are. Final rounds of the Washington Justice Unite Minor 2 Swiss stage. That's it. This is the last chance for these teams to change their ranking within the standings. Whether that is for the better or for the worse, well, that's going to be up to them and how they decide to play here in the 5th and final round. We got a scoreboard coming up for you guys just now to get an idea of where all 16 of our teams currently stand in this board.
It's just all 3-1 until you hit 8th place. And that's, Strix.
Ooh.
Okay.
Molly.
The games we have are going to be Kunoichi and Strix Bad Blood. Kunoichi in a good spot right now.
Yeah.
However, Strix, they need this win, or they could be facing elimination of the Swiss stage.
This is a crazy match to be watching because there is so much at stake here. If you lose this game, you lose any chance of heading on to the playoffs tomorrow. I mean, neither of these teams are necessarily safe, per se. It's going to seriously come down to those tiebreakers, such as those map wins. But right now, both of these teams, they are on the brink, 7th and 8th place, respectively, here, to prove who's going to be able to move on. Maybe they both do. Potentially, they both don't. One does, one don't. It's really going to depend on how the rest of this bracket starts off. But what's really going to matter here is if Kunoichi CGL and Strix Bad Blood, who came to play today, and how are they going to do it? I mean, both of these squads, I know every single player on both of these teams. That is how cool they are. I see them around in all sorts of marginalized gender events within the Overwatch community and, of course, here in Calling All Heroes. And one of the ones I think that we see a lot is, let me rephrase that. One of the teams that we see at top a lot, Kunoichi CGL, formerly known as Dart Monkeys, which those of you who have been following Calling All Heroes for quite some time know that this roster dominated back in our very first major and has been existing throughout every single event. Not once have they been able to take that first place, always sitting within that top 4 until came, Major 2. 14th is where Kunoichi CGL ended up finishing up. And I gotta say, I mean, I look at their roster, I think that they're one of the strongest out there, personally. Whether that is biased or not. On paper, I seriously think that this roster is just so good together, the way that they play. And that isn't to say for Strix Bad Blood either. Like I said, I know every single one of these players. Molly, most notably, Molly. My name is Molly. I should be able to say that properly. Molly, great name by the way, is a stellar tank player, whether it is the off tank or the main tank, specifically on this Sigma. I absolutely love to see her on the Sigma, as well as the Junker Queen, are 2 points that I think I know her for the most. And that's not to mention the rest of the roster, Minnie, Sieba, Scarlet, and AJMR. They've all been playing together for such a long time here.
Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to once again, the words are not my strong suit, and I'm over here on the desk. All right. I know, anyways, as I was saying. So earlier on, I was mentioning how Fable, how they had a lot of flexibility on their roster, right? That's kind of how Kunoichi is. They have a lot of that flexibility. However, one thing I did mention was Vancouver Titans Blue had those 5 player slots. Strix, just the same way. They don't have any other players, so it's going to be another battle. That synergy of having that 5-person roster, or in this case, there is going to be synergy from Kunoichi.
Yeah.
But they also have that flexibility.
They do. So. It's the difference between just that 5 set or having all of the options in the world, which there are advantages and disadvantages, pros and cons to both methods. And I think that when I look at this personally, I see synergy. And synergy goes above and beyond. You could have some of the best players in the world, and they could have never played together before. And you play against one of the teams that have been playing together for like years on end. Yes, I know those people. They do exist. Trust me. They are just on another level of synchronization. They don't even need to calm some things. They just have the trust in each other to pull through. And that is the Kunoichi CGL roster right here. I look at them. I see Eevee on the tank, SK and Aspen on the sports. Could you ask for a more iconic support duo in Calling All Heroes? I genuinely do not think so.
Look, if I don't see an SK rollout come in this and then a montage later, then why are we even here?
Exactly.
Like, we've got to see some of these Lucio rollouts come out from SK, but like you said, SK and Aspen, this support duo is going to be gruesome. One of those things happening yesterday, the first match we saw was Kunoichi, and one of the big things was Somnus and Aspen on that Oyari getting play of the game.
Yeah.
Just constantly.
First of all, you put some of the most talented players in Calling All Heroes on a DPS-style support?
Yeah,
I mean, I expect to see play of the game from Aspen at this rate, or Scarlet too. I mean,
Yes.
either one of these players are just so gosh darn good at their roles that I have that expectation for them. And it's seriously going to come down to that when you look at how dominant that these support lines can be, they're very good at what they do. That's not the question here. I honestly want to look at the rest of the rosters, to be totally frank. And one of the things that I don't see a whole lot is we haven't seen as much of that Orisa from Molly specifically. She's been specifically leaning towards that Junker Queen, which that is Molly, by the way, playing for Strix Bad Blood, just under a different name today. So rolling out on that Junker Queen, Amir from Eevee. Now this is about to get interesting.
Yeah, that Junker Queen mirror is going to be there. Same thing on the DPS as well. Only difference is Bad Blood going to be with this Baptiste rather than the Kiriko coming out from Aspen. And okay, there's a way to start the fight, Molly.
They're just going to start. You're not allowed to talk. Nope. That's exactly what was just said. Is Eevee's like, you're taking too long. I'm going to go ahead and walk right in. Eevee's strong point, also the Junker Queen. I would like to point out, this is the level of synergy that I wanted to see from Kunoichi, is that Eevee leads the charge in. She's great at shot calling here. With Aspen and SK on her side, on her flanks, then Strix Bad Blood, they're going to have a very hard time making the first move.
Yeah, and with this, already going to take that first fight now. Eevee already almost 50% to that ultimate ability. Going to be relatively close between the two Lucios here. But, I mean, you're just going to take this fight fast, right? You have that Kiriko cleanse, and now it is a mirror, Molly. I want to mention that.
Yes.
We do see the Kiriko come out from the side of Strix Bad Blood, so now we see a direct mirror composition. I think it's the first time we've seen this today, an exact mirror. It's going to be between which team can come up on top.
And so far, that's been Kunoichi CGL. Like, look at the difference of ult charge between Eevee and Bugworm54, aka Molly here. There's a big reasoning to that. Eevee can march in. These DPS, yes, they're going to trade each other out. Mini is going to do their best to equalize the charge, but Strix Bad Blood, they've taken more damage. They have the support ultimates to give them that extra sustain, that extra boost. So Eevee doesn't even have the chance to use that Rampage, as I for more mentioned, to give Kunoichi that upper hand in the battle. So they're going to end up going down. But overall, they played that fight very conservatively, and that's going to pay off well in the future.
Yeah, 50% now, or not quite, 49% for Kunoichi. It's always at like 1%, but it was right there.
You're just not allowed to be right.
No, I guess I'm not. I guess that's how the rest of this is going to be. But Kunoichi will have a lot of ultimates on the table, like you said, able to play that very, very slowly and conservatively. And now you're going to have a lot of ability to take this next fight, as things are going to get very aggressive for the side of Strix.
Look how low Molly ended up getting there, and she's not getting healed up anytime soon. Even with the Rampage going off for herself, she can't stay up. Never got that healing necessary. Wisp following it up with that Dragon Blade. I would normally say overkill, but when it's Wisp on the Genji, go ahead. You do you. You're going to get that Dragon Blade up in no time. That's Kunoichi regaining control.
I want to know how low Eevee got there. Because all I saw was the entire health bar was just green from the sound barrier coming out from SK. So first off, props to you, SK. But second off, I mean, there was just no HP there. It was just green, as the next fight's already going to be happening from an overclock coming out from Barcode, and this is going to be dangerous.
Ooh, yeah, dangerous for Mini specifically. Almost ended up going down, but there goes Scarlet. Ugh. That's going to send Strix Bad Blood back just another step. Prototype needs to come up with an elimination now to make it happen. The ultimate advantage is in their favor, but Mini can't use the Dragon Blade. Prototype didn't get that elimination until it was too late. Thankfully for Bad Blood, they have a little bit of time to get a slight regroup, but somebody's going to have to bolt to point if they want to get a touch.
Yeah, I mean, Kunoichi just pushed so far forward just to keep them so far back. The Doomfist switch is going to come in from Strix Bad Blood, but now you've just got to invest everything you can and try to find this first pick.
And that's all that Bad Blood can do right now. Scarlet was kind enough to get that touch in for Strix and allow Mini go ahead, get in the drift of Dragon Blade, putting some good old Fruit Ninja back out on the field. Tiny but mighty is what this player really wants to be, and that's the job done. Strix Bad Blood, they got really dicey there. Able to recover in the end.
Yeah, and with this, Strix Bad Blood will have that sound barrier. Kunoichi switches Barcode over to that Tracer now just to get a little bit faster, a little bit more pure dive brawl pressure coming in from the Junker Queen composition. Kitsune Rush going to be building really fast from Aspen. Really the only one who can do these headshots, but these one clips are going to be brutal if Barcode can get onto one of these supports.
And we know how nasty Barcode can be on this Tracer specifically, so keep an eye out for that Trisha player in your backline, specifically Strix Bad Blood. They'll be okay with that sound barrier for the time being. Aspen, though, certainly not okay. She got way too far in than she would have liked there, and it's going to cost her her life, and that's going to make the rest of Kunoichi's CGL's lives rather miserable here for the short, actually the short remaining duration that they're going to have with them on this point. And suddenly, tables have turned. Bad Blood, they're going to be in a point. They can get it, but SK used the sound barrier here. I really do not like that. You didn't prove me wrong right here, SK. You don't have a team to follow up. You use Pulse Bomb, and now the Dragon Blade isn't going to have that support you want. The staggers are going to come in if SK falls right here. This is going to be a rough scenario to reapproach.
I mean, you blink and you miss it. That was such a crazy fight, and now Strix looking at one fight territory. 3 ultimates to their name. Kunoichi will also have a couple to theirs, but Eevee and Wisp need to hit some crazy Blade Rampage, and here it comes with the Blade.
Oh, Wisp got a triple kill with it last time. What will they come up with? It's 1 on a prototype with 3 HP, and the dream is going to end nowhere but the nightmares that Strix Bad Blood are causing for Kunoichi CGL right now. It was such a strong start for them. Eevee had the idea. They knew how to play this map on the Junker Queen, but Strix Bad Blood, they came roaring back with a vengeance, with a Doomfist of all things to put it back up in the favor of their own.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie, having Eevee fall with that Rampage, that one stings.
It hurts.
Like, having that Rampage, I'm not sure if that would have helped you win the fight, but what I do know is that dying with that Rampage was so crucial to match up with that Blade, even if just to force off high ground and then use the Rampage. But just not being able to utilize that really did punish Kunoichi, as they had such a good lead. I mean, 1 fight territory for them to win, and Strix just kept it going in their favor, the mirror going in their favor. Kunoichi,
Yeah.
same comp. I'm okay with this.
You know, same thing. I don't think they did bad. And
No,
I think that's
not
the
at
one
all.
thing we need to really say. They did not do bad at all. Strix Bad Blood came back and staggered out Kunoichi. They didn't get a full fight in pretty much from that last point. And that hurt. You don't do that again. You get a fresh start with another map. I do not count them out whatsoever. This is still pretty much anybody's game in my eyes alone. And Strix Bad Blood, if we learned anything from last time, the initiative, Kunoichi CGL, they are the ones to strike first and often strike harder. But with all of those major cooldowns coming out, it's going to be difficult to try to sustain for this, which Mini is finding exactly to be the case for themselves. Kunoichi CGL making quick work of the first fight once again to get that early lead.
And you need to be faster. You need to use that composition to your advantage, because this mirror is just a tempo mirror, right? Who's going to use commanding shout first? Who's going to use speed first? Who's going to use the ult first? I mean, that is truly what this comp is, because I mean, yes, you have Barcode, yes, you have Prototype who can find those heads, but outside of that, it's just go in, go fast, get your pick, and win the fight. And okay, Barcode, never mind, I'm done talking.
Again, you're not allowed to talk because Barcode says, no, it's my game and you are going to watch what I do. And we don't care really how to say, I'm sorry. We do care what you have to say. It's cool to see. But what also is cool is Kunoichi CGL and how they take the space here. You see, it was when they're taking the space in this exact instance, Strix Bad Blood, they can't take that initiative. They're automatically on the back foot.
Yeah, and I want to mention something. Aspen is the one on Lucio here.
How did I not realize that before?
Yeah, I just realized that.
Wait a minute.
SK
Wait a minute.
is on Kiriko.
Hang on.
Ults in the favor of Kunoichi here, and I mean, you're about the same spot that you were last round, but with a little bit more percentage here. Take the aggression and just get a pick. Okay.
I mean, hey, you know what? There's a pick onto either side. Both the Sojourns end up trading out 1 for 1. But this is where Molly can start to get in, get her hands a little bit dirtier. CGL have to compensate and say, just for that Kitsune rush. But then later when you're from Bad Blood, they don't have the Suzu available for their Junker Queens, and they have to commit the Sound Mirror in as well. Double duty in terms of support ultimates to win. It's an expensive battle for Bad Blood, but it's arguably even worse for Kunoichi CGL having to lose that.
Yeah, I'd say that's even worse for Kunoichi, because you've lost that Rampage as well, right? On the side of Strix, you're going to have the same 2 ultimates in terms of DPS, but you also have that Rampage, and Overclock's going to be the first thing to be used. Strix doesn't care. They're going to go fast.
Oh, no. They go zoom. They go zoom into the backline. Prototype leading the charge, not even allowing Kunoichi CGL to escape the spawn. Bit of a taste of their own medicine, you could say, but that is all right. You have 2 of these ultimates coming back in, but I can say the same on the other side.
Yeah, same thing on the other side. Kunoichi and Strix both having these ultimates, but Rampage Blade, in my opinion, going to be better than that Blade and that Overclock. I mean, if you're trying to combo this. And Strix is going to probably go fast once more, as there it goes.
The Mini just flies in from the top ropes and taking the initiative. This is what we wanted to see from Strix Bad Blood, but that deflect, that lost a lot of time on their Dragon Blade. Getting the 1 onto Barcode, 1 and done. All right, you take that, you back off, you reset, wait till Kunoichi CGL gets close, and just explode onto them again.
Yeah, and Strix is doing this so well because now it's like, okay, now they just have one ult. No. They have Kitsune coming up as well here. So Strix in a really good spot. And not
okay.
anymore.
You know what? That go ahead and work, Wisp. All right, you get one. Can you give us a little bit more? Goes for the Genji. Well, you can't really slice that guy. And you're anti, so okay. You go ahead and take the deflection kill that you got. You lose barcode in advance. Molly has to go down. Okay, that happened. Good job, Kunoichi. Can they turn that into a little more? All right, SK on the Kiriko, you make that work. So much is happening in this fight alone that it's been scrappy for Kunoichi CGL to get onto the objective. Bad Blood, they were confident going into it. You could tell by the way that they were playing, backing off for the re-engage. They just couldn't make it happen.
Yeah, Strix played that really fast and really well, and the Rampage was there, but the cleanse is really what messed them up coming out from SK, and they're able to find 2 picks of their own. Kunoichi going to be coming up on 4 ultimates here. Strix Bad Blood will have both support ultimates, but final fight, this could be it.
And this could be it, especially with Barcode pushing all the way up, gets so low. Look at the support pouring in from Aspen, SK, Scarlet, and Keith alike. All of these supports making the difference for their teams, but not enough for Edie. She stayed in the fight way too long for this to happen, and Strix Bad Blood, they are on track to get the flip back over at that 99% coming through. This is only map 1, but I feel like we're talking map 5 here.
It really does feel like that, especially because we just saw 4 ultimates used from Kunoichi here, and Strix, they used, I believe, just Sound Barrier, and Kitsune. So there's really no ultimates coming in from either side here, except for maybe Blade coming in from Strix. But final fight territory for both these teams. Whoever gets picked first loses the fight. But Eevee, there it is.
Yep, there it is. Exactly. You called it as it should have been. Eevee gets the more important one on to Keith here, and especially with Wisp following it up with another. This is Kunoichi CGL. Your only job. They can win this fight. They can close it out. Has to come down to this target focus. You cannot let Mini get up to this Dragon Blade because that could be a major issue if this fight progresses any further. But Mini has the health. Now the Dragon Blade ready to be popped. There isn't an answer. You need to try to keep the player off of your backs. Look how low Eevee goes. Down goes SK, but Wisp firing back. Dragon Blade of their own and wins the battle in the end. Wow, Kunoichi CGL are pulling out every single thing they can to push this Oasis map further.
Okay. It's just like Wisp goes straight past the screen like a little breeze of wind, and you don't even know what's about to happen.
No.
I think that was, out of the 4 blades I think we saw from their perspective, 3 of them ended up with more than 2 kills.
Yeah.
I mean, that just shows the power of Kunoichi, able to take this fight. It's like, oh no, they've lost the fight, they're down 3 players, and then Wisp says, let me change that. I've got let me do something about that. And that's what we saw. And you know what? I think from both these sides, I want to see the mirror again. It's close. It's even.
Yeah.
You don't want to change anything here. So I think you just mirror it once more.
I'm not going to be surprised if they mirror it once again. And yeah, do we have the mirror? Okay, yep, there it is. Prototype returning back onto that Sojourn. So teleport out. Strix should be able to make it to this high ground first, which is often where this battle becomes one of the key ones, especially on first round of Oasis. So Strix holding on to the Kunoichi CGL. They're forced to take the suboptimal position here on this objective, kind of heading towards that back, that little mini room that you see, but they don't really want to fully rotate. It almost looks like that they want to make a move towards that high ground, force Strix Bad Blood up just to rush up for themselves. Take that. And I'm not completely against it. The only problem is you get split up while you're doing this, and that's something Molly and Prototype will easily capitalize on here.
Yeah, and we see that happen as Prototype's able to take out Wisp, and then there's the fight back in Strix Bad Blood's territory. Aspen? Where did that even happen? Was there a Lucio 1v1 I was unaware about? Okay, Aspen's going to take out the Lucio for the side of Strix Bad Blood, and that could be exactly what they need to engage now, because now you have the speed, and Scarlet is not there to help out Strix Bad Blood.
No, not at all, and that speed is going to be a problem. What's even more of a problem is not having SK. That healing is gone, and like every time Kunoichi CGL they get an advantage, I feel like that there's always this good chance that they somehow end up losing a player, and it's just out of nowhere that this keeps happening, and it's lost in so many fights.
Yeah, I mean, when you have players like Prototype just able to find that one rail, it's not going to headshot half the time, if you've realized. And it's just that slight rail, someone's not healed up all the way. And that is sort of the downside of this Kiriko and Lucio, is it takes you a little bit of time to get someone healed up fast. Unlike if you're running a Baptiste or an Ana or an Alari, you don't get that burst. You get a little bit of slow movement in that healing, and that's very, very risky, as Strix Bad Blood already approaching the 60% mark and ultimates to use at their discretion.
for the first time, I feel like the ultimate economy is actually slowed down a little bit. We haven't seen anything to come out just yet, but that's about to change here momentarily. Strict Bad Blood and Kunoichi nearing those sound barriers, but with no SK on this side of Kunoichi. She keeps going down first. This is a reoccurring problem that Kunoichi cannot solve, and it's going to be very difficult to win fights otherwise, and it requires a pop-off moment from players like Barcode or Wisp to do it, but I think Barcode is just having one of those pop-off moments, ends up getting shut down, but the damage has already been done. Prototype forced into a desperate situation to pop that ultimate of their own. All it does is just beat back the players of Kunoichi a little bit farther. 90% total shutout right now, and Kunoichi yet to be on the point.
And Strix Bad Blood used the one ult. Or they used the Kitsune early on, and now the Blade and the Beat's going to come out.
Everything else. That's all they needed to do was buy the time. What a change. What a difference. From our first two maps, they were down to the wire. They were close. Strix Bad Blood blew it out of the water. It was quite literally a bloodbath for Kunoichi CGL. That is all that happened. This was Strix Bad Blood coming back in control of this round. And you know what I want to point out is that this is the initiative, that aggression that they were taking is finding these eliminations, giving their DPS players the space to work. And if they give them the space to work, I guarantee you they're going to come back with something to show you for it.
Yeah, and this is also the team that knows they need to win this.
They do.
Right? So starting up one map already, confident, right?
There you go.
Not cocky, but confident. And now you can say, okay, we have one map to play with in case things do not go in our favor on either Numbani or Paradiso. So you're up one, you're nice and comfortable. You don't really want to go to a map 3, you don't have to. But, but you are a little bit comfortable with this spot now. And you're also like, we're not here to play, right? Well, we are, but we're not here to play around, right? We are here to take this game. And Kunoichi struggling on round 3. It was close, and then it was just dominance coming out from Strix Bad Blood.
Something exploded in the mental. I don't know what happened. Something exploded.
Staggering.
And basically, that's pretty much what happened. And they never really got back on track, which is something that I don't think we usually see from that team, to be totally honest with you. I mean, one of the things that Kunoichi CGL, their roster, is known for is their sheer amount of competitive experience here, is that they play in these events all the time. You have players that have participated in contenders and have been participating for years and years and years and years, that adds up. And when things like this happen and they don't get fixed relatively early on, that really does start to raise some red flags here. I'm like, all right, is this going to be something that's going to be a reoccurring issue later on into the game? The one thing they do have on their side, though, is the map pick.
Yeah.
Granted, there are only 2 of them. Both oddballs, nonetheless. But they do have that selection. And you know what? It's your lucky day. We get to take a break from Numbani. We're headed to Paradiso.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about earlier, right? One, I'm kind of glad to see this, a little bit of a switch up on the broadcast, but also we get to see a map that may throw Strix off guard. I believe when we watched Kunoichi yesterday, I think they picked Numbani going in, or they ended up playing Numbani. I don't quite remember the circumstance, but now they pick Paraiso going in, which is not something you really expect to see from these teams because of how popular Numbani is, especially in contenders. So especially from a team like Kunoichi to pick Paraiso, there's a plan. They got a trick up their sleeve.
Something.
We got some magic going on somewhere. Somewhere in their roster.
I hope. There's got to be something somewhere, surely.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't pick Paradiso of all maps. No offense to Paradiso. You're cool. I like to look. You got some fun colors. I love to go to the beach. But you don't pick that map for no reason. You only go there if you have a specific idea of what you want to do. Whether it is Numbani just did not work out, we need to try something new. I'm okay with that reasoning, to be totally honest with you. Kunoichi did not look good on Numbani when we watched that yesterday. And there were several reasons for that going on. And
yeah.
I think we're starting to see a little bit more of that come back into play today. And it's not necessarily because they're directly getting diffed in things. It's more of how are they approaching fights? When are they taking them? The overall positioning of the individuals is a little scrappy. And when you're playing against teams that are as good as Strix Bad Blood, they're going to punish for you for that. They're not going to let you get away with such silly teams as others would.
Yeah, I mean, especially because, Strix able to take one of those maps off of, I believe it was Washington Timeless yesterday. Yeah. They're not happy about that loss.
No.
It's like
absolutely not.
It's like no, we should have won Numbani. We're mad about that one. So they're here for vengeance. They're here for blood. The name Bad Blood is a little.
It kind of fits.
It's fitting and it's a little frightening, right? I mean, even their logo is just scary in a sense. It's like, I don't know, it's mysterious.
It is.
So
it's like
you're going to Paradiso map we haven't seen. You're going against 2 teams who enjoy playing these different compositions. Are we going to see Junk Queen? Are we going to see more dive with a Wrecking Ball? Are we going to see Doomfist? Are we going to see Winston, Diva? Are we going to see Orisa? I truly don't know. I wouldn't hold it against Strix to run Doomfist, as we are seeing through the replays here. They did run Doomfist for a little while. Now, that was contest, but is this something maybe they're going to pull out on Paradiso?
You know, I'm really going to have to think about that, to be honest. Like, where the comfort zones of Eevee and Molly lie, both are on the Junker Queen. I mean, when Junker Queen was Queen, that's where these two players really started to shine. So when they were really up there, it became kind of the question of how can they work with those teams. They want to bring this meta back. It literally is Jotes, what we're seeing right now, as it was so-called named. Way back in, what was this? The summer stage
September.
of 2022. Like October of last year is about when this was actually relevant. So they want to bring us back to the old days. Wow, I mean...
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, we're okay with that. I mean, I like to shake it up. I like to see something new. But if you're getting diffed specifically in a comp by a pretty decent margin towards the tail end, you've shown us that you can make it close. What changes need to come into play? And I seriously think it comes down to those communications and how those are coming out. Because it's not a matter of the skill here at all.
Yeah, and that's what I am curious about. Like, if you have Kunoichi, you have two major shot callers, Eevee and SK.
Yep.
Right? I mean, your comms are going to be loud. They're going to be fierce. They're going to be consistent. That's what you want in communications in your team, right? So I'm curious to see. I'm trying to figure out what you run here if you are Kunoichi. Do we see a Symmetra gameplay? Do we see some TP strats coming in? Right? I mean, we saw a little bit of that yesterday with the Orisa.
That's true.
And we have seen that Strix likes to run the TP. Now, obviously, I was more referring to Kunoichi here, but it's possible that we do see maybe a Symmetra with potentially even a Junker Queen just to get on top, because Paradiso, one of those maps you can't really just walk.
Yeah, and I think that's... You see it a little bit less on first point, but second point specifically is a disaster for the attackers if you do not have a way to contest the people on high ground. So if you're going to let Prototype and Mini just have free range of that area when they're on attack, or even the same for Barcode and Wisp here, if you don't have an answer for that, I don't know what to tell you. You're not going to have a good time. That is a guarantee. That is an absolute guarantee here. So I think Paradiso is either going to be a map where we see a bunch of changes come through, or we see them be super stubborn and try to run it down mid.
Hey, just because someone is stubborn doesn't mean it will go well. And I think that might be possible, right? Barcode, put him on the Tracer, right?
Yeah.
You put Barcode on the Tracer. Maybe you put Wisp back on that Genji. And I mean, you can run the Kiriko and the Lucio and the JQ. It's not a terrible idea.
No.
You just have to be very coordinated and understand you have to get on the high ground one way or another.
Exactly. And again, it's less the idea of what heroes you run. As long as you do the thing, it doesn't matter how you do the thing.
Just
I genuinely could not care. Just do it. Just do it. That's all I ask.
Don't die and do the thing.
Exactly. Don't die. That's what we want to die. Don't not die.
That is your one rule of Overwatch. Don't die.
One rule. Exactly. If you want to get what Overwatch, that's just you. Don't die. Easy. There you go.
Cross it off the bingo. Oh, okay.
Why would you say that? Why would you say that? You know for a fact that they're going to troll. Eevee literally picked Hog before.
Yeah, that's
fair.
I don't know.
Like, ooh, Hog. I'm like, oh, no. You just disappointed everybody here.
That scared me for a little bit. I was like, Eevee would be the player to bring out the Hog.
Honestly,
let's be
no.
honest. Like, Eevee would be the player to run Roadhog and then proceed to get a 5K. So I wouldn't hold it against them. So I really wouldn't. And that's not a bad thing. It's just, I would expect it. Strix, on the other hand, I guess they're going to run it down main. Or walk it down, float it down.
Float, Sigma floats, but Mini flies on the window and hits the shot! Nasty from Mini. Wow, okay, you doubted them. They didn't walk down mid, they didn't float down mid. Mini just went straight up, Barcode didn't know what hit him, and suddenly here we are, Strix Bad Blood, they're at an advantage, they can try to rush this, but with the Sigma, I know how this is gonna work, and Eevee's like, oh no, there's way more there than I thought. Ooh, she races back to the team, able to get away, safe and sound, but Kunoichi CGL still don't have Barcode back in the fight, so this is gonna give you a great opportunity for the attackers to get some of this high ground back in their favor. We're seeing a Lori for the first time, or at least for Strix Bad Blood, because SK isn't allowed to play the game as of now, so Kunoichi CGL, they have not been able to regain their footing after losing their DPS so early on, and what an opening statement from Strix Bad Blood coming to this point, honestly.
Yeah,
oh,
that's painful.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, this fight's going on long, and it's good stall for coming out from
Oh,
Kunoichi, but
wait a minute. Surely they don't come back and win this, do they? Wait a minute. Wait, this didn't happen. This happened. This happened. Okay, Kunoichi. Wait. Minnie's still alive.
How is Minnie
lives
still
here?
alive?
That is a great question. I think the reason for that is Scarlet is still alive. More specifically, Scarlet's Pylon is still alive, and Minnie already has an ultimate online. Strix Bad Blood at least guaranteed 1 and potentially 2 ticks if they decide to stay on the point. All right, there you go. Kunoichi CGL, they lost a lot of players throughout all of that. They popped the Tac Visor just to do all of this zoning. Look at that from Strix Bad Blood. My goodness, did that get dicey there. But they pulled everything out of the bank. That was so perfectly played from them at the very end when all of their cards were just shown on the floor.
Yeah, and I'm actually really sorry to see what just happened. Kunoichi used both support ults as well. They were going to try to recontest that fight and try to stay on point, but it didn't happen. They used both that Amplification Matrix and that Captive Sun. They no longer have those in their favor.
That hurts.
While on the side of Strix Bad Blood, that combo is entirely available for you, and all you really have now is, well, okay, I guess we're going to the Genji now. Just keep switching it up. Surprise Kunoichi, and I guess it's going to go up because you got 4.5 minutes to go through second point.
You know what we said before this map started?
Yes.
Is you need to contest the high ground, and you know what Minnie's gonna do?
Contest the high ground.
Exactly! Good job, you get a gold star. But Minnie...
Really?
I know, right? I'll
thank
get you one later. But Minnie
Let's go.
is going to get up to the high ground, at least I hope, at some point here. And not allow Wisp and Barcode to get set up. Because if once Wisp and Barcode get going, it's a problem. But what is even more of a problem is if Aspen falls to some stray swoop damage and Scarlet just floats her way on up and takes out half the team. Strix Bad Blood, I don't even know if they're on another level right now, but Kunoichi CGL, they are absolutely lost in the depths of darkness.
I don't know what happened between last map and this map, but this is not the same Strix that we saw last map.
No.
This is a team that is flexed onto quite literally every different character from what we just saw them. And now they're just going to dominate and are probably going to get close to a 4.5 minute section, going to 0.3 if they just take this fight and hide out this Bob.
And honestly, at the rate this is going, it could happen, and this has to be off of Molly's Gravitic Flux. If this goes well, then okay. But Aspen and Eevee are having enough of that. They need to commit so many ults. They got both DPS. It's plenty to zone away. And this honestly is a great spot for Kunoichi CGL to take a breath and say, okay, we can regroup. It's fine. We got 3 minutes to do this.
I mean, yes, but you use both DPS ults.
That you did.
Right? I mean, yes, Strix isn't going to have anything of their own either because they use Flux, then they use both support ultimates. So in terms of ultimate advantage, Kunoichi does have that, but if you have players like Minnie and Prototype who are just going to walk up on you and put so much damage in that you just fall, are those ults really going to keep you alive for long enough to take this next fight?
This is the hard part too, because Kunoichi CGL, I think they're good for the next fight. In theory, with everything that's on the table, this should be theirs to win. However, coming to the future, we'll have to see where that actually ends up going out. With Strix Bad Blood, they're having a hard time approaching this. They had to walk a long way up to the high ground because nobody really can fly their way up there except for Minnie. So Kunoichi CGL, they're going to take the fight close, which is where Sigma really is going to struggle here. And Kunoichi CGL, they can move the ults comfortably, but it just eats nothing but shield there. Ooh, that recent chain really coming back to bite SK, and that is going to be a problem coming up, is you don't have that ultimate and end up getting nothing. So at least your DPS gets something, but Minnie, on the other hand, goes to the back line. Oh, what a shot from Barcode. That was so needed for Kunoichi right there. I would be terrified if I was them, but I'd be more scared if I'm looking Prototype face-to-face through an Ant Matrix, which was the case for several of their players, and now Wisp just the same. Strix Bad Blood, they should have won this. Genuinely, I do not think that they should have won this at all, but Kunoichi CGL, they held on as long as they could, and just Prototype decided to pop off, took the game into their own hands, and made it a 0.3.
You know, you did say that you thought that Kunoichi was going to win that fight.
I did.
Yeah. So, I'm just going to point that one out. But one thing, the reason for that is because Strix played it so smart. They, first off, blocking the Terror Surge and that Captive Sun was just incredible coming out from the submit for Strix. And then you were just able to build up that blade, build up the rest of your abilities, and walk in. And Prototype is just going to kill everyone. So, Strix, 2.5 minutes, not as much time as you thought they were going to get, but are just going to now walk onto this next point and try to secure it.
Especially as Wisp is just now coming back from the spawns too, so while Bad Blood, they only got this Gravitic Flux to work with, there's not a clear answer outside of the Immortality field for that ultimate, so that's going to get you space it's going to buy a bunch of health for you, especially if you can get onto the high ground. So Strict Bad Blood, they're nearly halfway through this objective already without a strict fight coming in, because Barcode has to play this high ground along with Wisp to really help control the space. And that's where we'll start to see that 6th-man advantage. Bobbert coming out, having a little thing to say in the battle. But you know, you lose Aspen on the other side. The support's been picking off for Kunoichi CGL. This has been a reoccurring thing we've seen for both Aspen and SK. It's uncharacteristic for them. For Strict Bad Blood, they are making every single hit they get count and multiply it as much as possible, forcing Kunoichi to use so many ultimates in this fight.
So many things are happening on so many different sections of this map.
Yeah.
Like, SK just used an ult to kill Prototype. We saw Eevee use Terra Surge. So many things that happened on every different part of this point. This Overwatch
What is this?
turned into a deathmatch for a second there because everyone was doing their own thing. And it worked out in Kunoichi's favor until the Hanzo switch comes in. Don't you love
You just
Hanzo
had to say
Mom?
something. It all worked out. Oh, never mind. You cursed it. You really did just curse it there.
I did.
Oh, I feel so bad. So bad for Kunoichi CGL. They finally got a fight winner. At least they thought they did until Keith and Minnie made an appearance today. And now you got another Prototype behind the Ant Matrix. Ooh, I'm not wanting to look at that. Run away if you can. That's all I got to say to Kunoichi CGL, because this last corner is your final opportunity to get this down to either 0 seconds or stop a hold completely. And you can't even touch with Prototype's ultimate coming in. But somebody has to make a move here, put the stop to all of this. All you have is an Ant Matrix, but there's barely any health on anybody to make something happen. And Strict Bad Blood, they're starting and finishing exactly the same way with that momentum on their side, going out with a bang.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, that was so hard for Kunoichi to take that fight. I mean, it was so many things happening on so many different sections. I think we needed like 10 observers in the game to realize what happened on that point, because there were so many different things going on, and it costed both teams so many ultimate abilities, and Kunoichi only had Ant Matrix to go around that corner, but you had players who were staggered and you couldn't have taken that fight, and which just gave Strix that immediate victory to walk in with the Ant Matrix of their own. Ulting first, like we've mentioned multiple times today, ulting first is going to control that tempo and you end up winning the fight, and that's what Strix did. They ulted first, and it was just a struggle because Kunoichi wasn't able to use that Ant Matrix to their favor because they had to kite the first one.
Seriously, all this boils down to is proactive. What?
Kiting.
That too. But it's being proactive versus reactive.
Yeah.
Is what this has been. Is that Strict Bad Blood, they make the first move, forcing Kunoichi CGL to react in a certain way. And reacting, you're automatically at a disadvantage because you have limited options and very limited time to make the move. Whereas Bad Blood, they're in control of that tempo, like you said. So now you're looking at the plan here where now Bad Blood, they're in a position that, yes, they are on defense, but they're still very much going to be in control of this tempo if they keep playing the way they have.
Yeah, and we're going to see basically a mirror come in from both these teams in terms of tank and DPS, tank and support. On the side of DPS, though, Wisp's going to be looking for this Widow shot. Can they do it? Goes up, but there's a shield in their face.
Ooh. I mean, you can try, right?
Yeah,
I mean, the effort was there.
You always have to try.
But if Strict Bad Blood did it, you better darn hope that they're going to expect it at the same point. So, nope, Kunoichi, you took a shot, missed it. You go ahead, switch on over to the Sojourn. So, a lot of spam coming in from a long range here. So, quite different when you look at these DPS lines, and even really across the board, except for the supports. Eevee wants to get up close and personal, whereas Bugworm is going to do a great job at supporting Minnie and Prototype here. All they have to do is sit behind a shield and spam! Oh, bad time to pick your head around a corner. Really, really bad time to do that. And yeah, this is Strict Bad Blood. They're going to the spawn because Minnie is a sniper on this Torbjorn. Who needs a hit stand if you got the little sweetest dwarf on your side?
Yeah, I mean, okay.
All right.
I think this is Minnie's 4th character on this map.
Wait, Minnie's playing the Minnie character.
Not wrong. But this is Minnie's 4th character. Minnie is flexing to every character. If there was a star player for this match, I'm sorry, I've got to give it to Minnie. That's 4 different characters that they have just been showing up on, and it's just going to continue to happen, just shooting little tiny fireballs at people.
You know how I mentioned that you got to get to the high ground. You got to get to Eevee.
High ground?
Well, they were going to try. The effort was there, but Eevee might have fallen off the stairs and taken too much damage. So, okay, not the time for Kunoichi CGL, but at least they know that they need to try to get the players off this high ground, and you can do that in one of 2 ways, which is either force the point or try to walk up there yourself.
Yeah, and though that's the best thing they can do, they're stuck in a situation where Strix have the ultimates to play with for miles. And on the side of Kunoichi, you really only have Ant Matrix and Captive Sun close to Bob as well, but Strix goes first. Another fight goes in their favor.
Yeah, I mean, Strix goes in, Scarlet more specifically, another beautiful Sunstruck ultimate coming in, and I mean, like, what else do you expect from Scarlet at this point? I mean, of course you're going to combo it up, get everything done that you need to, the few trades aren't really going to amount to much, and Kunoichi CGL, they just end up falling. This is what you said, that ultimate economy has been consistently, okay, pretty much always in favor of Bad Blood in the way that they end up playing.
Yeah, I mean, they use 2 ults there. They're going to have this Visor on the way with Ant Matrix, and that's already deadly enough. Mini will have Molten Core. Kunoichi does have both support ultimate abilities, and reaching up on that Overclock and that Terra Surge. You're going to see Strix Bad Blood plays a little bit further back, and I like this decision. I like this because now you get to play a little bit better with...
No! SK, no, 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 no! You had to live there! You absolutely had to! And, oh, this is brutal! For Kunoichi CGL, they needed to go into that ultimate, and they just didn't get the chance. Granted, Strix Bad Blood did use 1, 2, 3 of their old ultimates.
Yes, and that's the best thing right now for Kunoichi as they approach this 1 minute mark. 65 seconds to get this point here. Strix, no ultimate abilities. I mean, yes, it's very, very winnable for Kunoichi.
Why do you keep doing to this poor team, Ryan? This is the second time you've said that, and Barcode has died.
I am going to publicly apologize on Twitter. This is...
You might have to, at the rate that this is going at.
I mean, Toby the Turret just going crazy, just like Mini is, and now Strix gonna have Captive Sun, basically.
Pretty much. This is just how Strix has been playing, and you know, Kunoichi, I see a lot of check marks on the board. These need to be popped, and Wisp with the overclock somewhere within the map. But more importantly, Eevee needs to make something happen. Buy that space on the higher ground. Finally get that contest, but here comes that Captain Sun we've been so afraid of. Gets 2! Scarlet once again baiting the street Scarlet at this point with Kunoichi CGL's own blood. That was their best and basically only shot that they had about coming through. This is it for Kunoichi CGL. All of the hope that they had. Strix Bad Blood, they took that confidence from map 1, they applied it to map 2 for an absolute shutdown.
This was Kunoichi's map pick.
It was.
And Strix said, we will take this map any day of the week. I mean, Kunoichi had 3 ultimates. I mean, you couldn't see us, but I was counting. 1, 2, 3. And then all we see is Scarlet with 1. Scarlet with 1 singular ultimate ability. And it was over. Everyone on the side of Strix Bad Blood was crazy, though. I mean, you had Prototype, you had Mini, you had Scarlet. I mean, everyone on that team got their pop-off moment.
They did.
And Kunoichi, they tried to go in, and they just got completely shut down, like you said.
This is absolute. I don't think this is how either of us expected the match to go.
No.
At all.
No. And there was no map 4. I'm sorry, Fish.
I have to apologize for everything that you've done and cursed today, but you know what? It's okay. It happens. It happens. It happens to the best of us, right? And here's the thing. Strix Bad Blood, they did great. And I don't think that nobody can tell Kunoichi CGL what to do. They are that team, and this wasn't their day at all. This was not their day. They ended up taking one of the wins, but we can still see that when they come up against these stronger teams that they really start to struggle. And like these are just some things that should not happen. Strix Bad Blood should not have capped that first point as quickly. They had the eliminations there. Kunoichi CGL should have held the second point with that ultimate advantage. They couldn't do it. And whether that's because of their own error and mostly because Strix Bad Blood was just on another level this game, it really does say something and give me a little bit worry for the squad moving forwards.
Yeah, I mean now, because both these teams are going to have the same record, but I believe Strix may actually be able to take the spot over Kunoichi. I'm not sure. We'll have to figure that out later on in the broadcast, but that means Strix took this map a 2-0. So they're also going to have that map differential in their favor, that +1 from today's match. And they're going to be tied with Kunoichi. These top 8 teams, it's going to be close, Molly.
It really is. And I'm going to have to break out that document that has the list of all the different tiebreakers that go on. Because I guarantee you we're going to get down to like the very last little things that end up happening here. And what's absolutely crazy about this is that because there is such good contention between a lot of these squads that you can't ignore. And Strix Bad Blood, I think they're a great example of that. When I looked at all of these rosters, all of these teams heading into the second minor Unite event, I noticed like there's 8 of these teams that I'm super confident in that they can move on. And after watching this broadcast for the past 2 days, that has completely been thrown up and put in a dumpster and set on fire at this rate. Because there are so many squads that have just proven that they are worthy of being here and competing in the playoffs later down the line. And Strix Bad Blood is an excellent example of that.
Yeah, if we ever get Coin All Heroes pick'ems in the future, I think your pick'ems would have been completely just destroyed.
Boned.
Yeah, I think most people's would. I mean, the matches for the past couple of days. I mean, you expected some, right? I mean, you expected Washington Thomas to do really good, but they still lost the map.
They did,
right? You expected Valiant to do really well, really well, and they did. Valiant Guardians did really, really well. But then you had other teams that were like, kind of just, what happened? Right?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what happened. What was playing Ashe and was going crazy earlier. That's what happened. That was bad. It's okay. It's okay. The point is, though, there's so many options going into the playoffs next week.
And that's the thing is, I cannot tell you, we can't tell you right now who is going to be moving on. As much as I would love to say that, we're not going to know. The only things that are really guarantteed is that one undefeated team right now, which is the Guardians.
Valiant Guardians.
Valiant Guardians, yeah. So they're for sure moving on. As for anybody else, well, I really can't tell you, unfortunately. So we're going to have to wait and see how this fifth round ends up shaking out for every other team, which is going to be awesome as these games have gotten better and better as we have moved throughout the stage. And thankfully, we get a little bit more of content coming our way with an interview from the winning side. So Strix Bad Blood, we'll be hearing from them in just a bit. Before we get there, we're going to head to a break, get that set up. We'll see you in a minute. Here we are, fourth, fifth, and final time with an interview, which I cannot believe that I am saying. We are with Molly. Once again, love your name, by the way. I say that every time that I get to interview you because, one, we have the same name. It's pretty cool. And two, you absolutely popped off in this match against Kunoichi CGL. We've seen you guys play throughout this tournament and yesterday against Washington Timeless. You guys, especially from what I've heard and looking at these matches, had to have a rough trip through our Swiss stage maps up. Not all of them have been lucky, but here you are. You took down CGL Kunoichi in a 2-0 fashion that I don't think anybody had expected coming into this. I want to know, what was the vibe during this match? What was the thoughts after coming away with that first map?
After the first map, I think I wanted to. I thought they were gonna play something silly. I thought they were gonna play something silly. So I wanted to say attack, like, oh, they're gonna like sit in the corner and TP behind us and like jump our supports or something, or they're gonna play like I don't know. I just thought they were gonna not be normal, which they were normal, and they were normal, thankfully. But like Pariso, I think is by far our worst map.
Really?
So
Really?
Yep.
We would never
I'm
have guessed
pretty
that.
excited.
Just to tell you flat out, we never would have guessed that based on that gameplay.
No, and that's kind of where my question is going to lead into is Paradiso. Obviously, a map that was chosen to probably throw Strix off guard a little bit. So, what were the thoughts? What were the comms going into that map, saying, okay, since apparently it was one of the more struggle maps for Strix Bad Blood, what were the thoughts going into the map, saying, okay, this is a struggle map for us? How do we go about this?
Yeah, I think we have a solid idea of how to play it. I think it's just we normally fumble on the execution. We just really have to get the timing down of like having everyone like pressure top so that someone can cross. Which I mean, it didn't matter because Mini just killed something, which is
Well.
awesome.
That is true.
So I mean, I think we gotta probably do that going forward.
Yeah.
And we just had to lock in and like work as a team instead of doing our own thing, which I think is like our biggest issue, full stop. But it's easily fixable things, so gonna get better. So
I mean, hey, as you will, with all the practice you guys have had, and you specifically, Molly, I know are a veteran in the Calling All Heroes scene, and as well
Something
as
like
just
that.
Overwatch and Open Division in general. See, like, you even know it yourself. You've been here a while. You've seen all of these teams. You've some succeed, some maybe not so much, and here you are coming away with a 3-2 record in the Swiss stage right now. We'll have to wait and see whether that qualifies you for the playoffs or not after everything ends up shaking out. But I kind of want to get an idea from you that about the tournament of Calling All Heroes in general, kind of what that really means to you, and just all about kind of participating and playing it from the team side.
I think it's really great. I love the community. I love the teams. I love my friends in it. I think I have a lot of like jokey banter with a lot of players, and I really appreciate when that's like reciprocated, because I don't know. There's not really anyone I don't like. I mean, we're all here to play and get better, and I'm gonna try to have fun with it. So the community means a lot to me. Tournament means a lot to me. So.
Hey, you know what? It means about as much to you as it does to us as well. And
Yeah.
I think being here to see you guys come out and arguably as the underdogs of this matchup and just run away with it was really cool. And the fact that you guys had fun while you did it. Minnie went absolutely nuts on the Torbjorn and all of the other 4 heroes that they ended up playing
Tor,
throughout this.
Echo,
So
Genji, Widow.
just go ahead and list them all off. Why don't you? And I think that's kind of the best thing is seeing you guys have fun and find that success that you work so hard for and have that opportunity to show it, of course, here on the stage of Calling All Heroes and the broadcast. So I'm just very glad that we got to see you guys on the broadcast today. And Molly, it was great to have you. Have another little chat, and hopefully we can hear from more of you later down the line.
All right, thanks for having me.
Of course, and with that, and that's our 5th and final match that is wrapped up within our stage. So still, many of those are being played out for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead, take a peek on some of those matches, see how they're doing, and come back to you guys with a little bit more info about what next weekend's going to look like. See you in a bit. I can start this off is, what a day has this been of the Calling All Heroes Unite Minor 2? I mean, we got some ups, we got some downs, we got some crazy action from several of these teams, and a couple upsets, we could even argue.
Yes.
So the fact that we saw a lot of these games come down to the wire was absolutely nuts. And it really got to the point that we didn't know who was going to be in that top 8 teams, who will be moving on to next weekend until everything was done, because there's just some of these squads that are on a near equal level that someone's got to make it, someone can not. So we have those standings coming up for you right now. And on your screen, you'll be able to see which 8 teams will be moving on until next weekend. And wow, there are definitely some shakeups in here.
Strix did take that map off Kunoichi and took him out. And that's going to be Fable also making it through, which is... So we see Shikikami, Fable, Washington Timeless, Azathoth, Strix Bad Blood, Vancouver Titans Blue, Drainers previously L9, and Valiant Guardians being the ones making it through. Kunoichi, though, that's a rough loss.
That one really does hurt, because Kunoichi, for the second time now, this is the second time that they do not make it until the playoff bracket. And, you know, you look at the 8 teams that are on here, and even the couple, the 9th, 10th, and 11th.
3-2.
They were close.
Yeah.
They're 3-2. We had to go down to the very limits of tiebreakers in order to get these seasons correct.
Yeah, and I mean, these 8 teams who are currently there, I mean, Valiant Guardians obviously going to be the powerhouse going into playoffs next
Easily.
week. 5-0. They were perfect in the entire Swiss rounds. Drainers 4-1, losing 1 round. Vancouver Titans Blue going 4-1. Strix 3-2. Azathoth 3-2. Washington Timeless 3-2. Fable 3-2. And guess what? Shikikami 3-2.
Snuck their way in.
So, I mean, you can see how close these games are going to be. I'm curious to see.
I really am too, and I think the one team that kind of stands out here for me the most is Vancouver Titans Blue, to be totally honest with you.
Yeah,
because
being 4-1.
Yeah, they're a team that has struggled to come up with results in the past, and they've labeled themselves as a dark horse. They believe in themselves to succeed within this Minor 2, and here they are. They made the 4th seed. They're in the top half of this.
Yeah, and the only team they lost to was Valiant Guardians. So clearly, Vancouver Titans Blue, that dark horse team, gonna be one to reckon with next week, because clearly they're coming out on top. We only saw them once today, and we talked about how they don't really have that flexibility, but they have that synergized roster.
Yeah,
that's what they're playing, and clearly that's working for them, because only team they lost to was the undefeated Valiant Guardians.
It really does say something about your team, to be honest, because you look at everyone who else is 4-1. They pretty much their only loss is against Valiant Guardians as well. So those top teams, they're pretty darn close. And it honestly is going to come down to who can take down the Titan right now.
Yes.
That is the Valiant Guardians. That is the team to beat. Sitting at 5-0, taking down most of the teams that are already on that list. And there's time. There's time for these teams to go back to the scrims, hit the VOD reviews, and figure out what needs to happen. You have a whole week ahead of you to make that decision before we hit that double elimination playoffs, which will kick off next Saturday. Yeah. And as well, those finals will be occurring on Sunday too. So plenty still more to come in the Calling All Heroes Unite Minor. And the fact that this was just the Swiss stage and we got to see this, I'm still blown away by how close a lot of these matches were, to be totally honest. And it is so cool to see that these teams are coming out to play. A lot of them are working in tandem with Tier 2, with contenders, to bring rosters to the table. And that is what Calling All Heroes is all about, is giving these players the opportunity to participate in the competitive level of esports at some of the top levels that you have out there. And seeing them on the stage, it just makes me smile. It really does.
It does. It's a good cause.
It is.
You can't go wrong with anything that's a good cause, right?
Truly.
You really can't. And one thing I am curious to see, right, is some of these 2-0s that we saw today and yesterday really don't serve them justice. No pun intended.
Wow. Wow.
But they don't, right? I mean, they really don't. Some of these games, some of these matches were so incredibly close. I mean, the one that Strix ended up losing, 0.9 meters. Losing that second map.
Pain.
Does not do them justice that they lost that map. And then going into this double elim stage, we're going into good old-fashioned best of 5. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be even closer.
And I think that's going to be another test, too, is you're not all into these first 2s. You have a little bit more room to grow and or fail, but hopefully the first one. You have time. You have time to work this out. And these best of 5s are a lot of what players are more familiar with. These series, they do get long, and you're playing multiple matches in a day, mind you. So you could be playing upwards of 10, maybe even 15 maps today in a day if you end up taking that route. But
Yeah.
it gets long. And a lot of these teams, when they have the competitive experience, as they do, they're going to be ready for it. And those are the ones that we are going to see in the grand finals and eventually coming out on top of this Calling All Heroes minor. But unfortunately, we got a whole week to wait for this to happen. I am going to be super impatient and basically just watching the clock for this to get there so we can see more of this Calling All Heroes action. And, you know, I think before we end up closing out today, I want to give a shout out to everybody who has been behind the production. Shout out to Bailey for helping a lot with the Calling All Heroes, getting everything together, to Shenandoah University and their esports program for helping out the production. And, of course, all of you guys for coming in to support Calling All Heroes, these players. You know them, you love them, and I can't wait to see more of them next week. So make sure that you tune in next Saturday to these channels, and we'll see you then.